thinking. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. I will not submit to authoritative man. I'm ready to die, but not for love. See the signs appear. It's gonna happen here.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the entire state of Arkansas. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, my own personal Wikipedia, a woman who finally understood how to get back into her Twitter account. Tripoli's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandria. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It was hard to get back into my Twitter page. I actually had to go into I went to try to get into an email account that I don't use anymore, and I forgot the password. And to reset the password, I had to go into another email account that I didn't ever use anymore. So it was like this big long process to finally get back into my Twitter page.
It was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing. It took maybe 45 minutes in total. I mean, this was ridiculous. But I am now officially back into my Twitter page. And I have posted nothing.
It took her as many minutes as characters she's allowed to post.
Yeah.
And you posted nothing.
And I still tweeted nothing. I'm in. I can get in. I still don't use it.
So now she doesn't have any excuses to why she's ignoring the Twitter account. She's just going to be continuing to ignore the Twitter account.
You know what happens is I had it up on my screen for a little while, okay, well, maybe I'll start using Twitter. But every time someone that I follow tweets something, the numbers just keep going up. And I hate that at the top of my screen where it was Twitter, 186, 293. It just kept going up. And I'm I can't handle this. This is just moving too quick for me.
Yeah. Twitter is just it's like the short attention span theater for this modern age.
It was too much for me. I got into it. Maybe I'll tweet something. But it was to keep it up all day. I'll work on the computer and kind of keep my Facebook up, and when a 1 comes up, I'll kind of look to see what it is. But the Twitter was just moving so quickly. I felt very pressured.
You were very pressured. Huh?
I was. It was a lot of pressure to keep up with Twitter. I just couldn't handle it.
I mean, I don't even have a response to that, by the way. I have no response whatsoever to that. I've actually started to utilize Twitter a little bit more, and I have begun to like it, actually. Not enough to where I get rid of Facebook or anything like that, but I am liking on the Twitter.
I don't really care for Twitter because I'm far too verbose for Twitter. The character limit is a problem for me.
Maybe you should not be so verbose.
Maybe what I have to say can't be summed up in 44 characters.
Well, maybe you shouldn't say more than that.
Now, I do have to say Alex chose my new Twitter name because I did end up changing it, so it's funny. I don't know if anyone noticed because I didn't go back on.
Jesus. You hear that though? I don't know what's going on with Twitter.
It just was a lot of pressure. I just seemed like things were moving very quickly for me. And I couldn't take it.
I got you. I understand. Also in the studio with us is the Prime Minister of all things that are sinister, Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
That's good to hear. I'm glad you're spectacular, actually.
Yeah.
Glad you're doing good.
Thank you, sir.
Pretty busy week this week. A lot of different things that were going on. So we can go ahead and just get right to it. The number one story that we have listed up there, even though it's probably not the number one story that Danielle and Greg want to talk about, is the not filibuster, but very long speech that was given on the floor of the Senate this week by a one Rand Paul.
Yeah, and the fact that everyone keeps posting it up there that it was a filibuster just absolutely drives me insane. Because a filibuster means that something would be accomplished at the end because you could talk you could talk to the point where session could end, like, that session could end and you have pushed off the vote to where it can't be voted on, thus it wouldn't keep moving forward. And that's not what happened here. The renewal of the Patriot Act was not up for a vote.
Not at the time.
Not at the time. It will be later on down the line, but it was not up right now. So generally, if something is up for a vote and a senator can go up there and filibuster, basically he can filibuster for days. And if it had been up for a vote and Rand Paul did filibuster until today, it would not go up for a vote and therefore it would not pass. And that would have actually accomplished not reauthorizing the Patriot Act. But because it wasn't up for a vote, he gave a very, very long speech, and he brought a lot of media attention to the Patriot Act, but he actually didn't get it stopped from being voted on, which he could have done had he timed his very long speech into it being an actual filibuster.
Well, he could still do that other part now, though.
He could, but we'll wait to see if that actually happens.
But even if you let it, all they'd have to do is once they get back in session, though, they could go and vote on it anyway.
Right. And that's, what happens, but it gives it a chance to where it dies for a little while, and the people have more of a chance to put pressure on their senators when they get back into their home districts and things like that. So, it gives you more of a chance.
Well, you could make the argument, though, that by doing it now and that by exposing it and giving, putting it out there in a way where all the attention is on this, and it's the 22nd, that you have given people more time to contact their representatives and let them know that where their vote would stand.
Unless they vote on it today, because they can vote on it today.
Well, understand that, but what I'm saying is, though, by doing it the other day and then contacting your representative, he gave time for that. Well, like last time it got renewed, it was one of those things where they waited till the end before they even wanted to vote on it. Then they were like, well, it's too late for us to debate on it. We don't have time, so we got to do it now.
Well, right. And like I said, if it had been an actual filibuster, it would have been put off for months, for at least a couple months. And that would have given a significant amount of time. Doing it this way gave it maybe, a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah. Look, I overall, I'm happy with what the guy did. I think it's a good thing to do these things. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's political theater all day long. It totally is. I'm not going to get around. I'm not going to get around that. But look, when you're having political theater talking about the Patriot Act, and you have, it was 2 Republicans and 6 Democrats or something that did it. The one thing is it does show you that it really is the Republicans that love this Patriot Act. And you know what? It's the majority of the Democrats that secretly love this Patriot Act.
Yeah.
So before we give either side any credence, I think it should be totally understood that Democrats and Republicans, as the majority of them go, have zero problem whatsoever with the Patriot Act, and that will vote it in. There are some you can call them civil libertarians up there that when it comes to the civil liberties aspect, the stuff they really should be worried about, that you have some Democrats and very few Republicans that will even give it lip service. But it's still going to get renewed. Let's just not even kid ourselves. It's totally going to get renewed. Look, I'm glad that it's not getting, to become permanent. I mean, Rubio, the neocons, people like Rubio, people like Lindsey Graham, people like John McCain, these guys want it to be permanent. Like, they really want this stuff to be permanent because they love, they love having the power that the Patriot Act gives them. So the fact that we're not going to make it permanent is at least, I don't want to call it a victory, but at least it's not as bad as it could be, I guess. And I'm glad that, at the end of the day, I'm glad that Rand did it. I know he did it for political theater. I know he did it to separate himself out from his competition, which he did a good job of, with the exception of probably Cruz, because Cruz was, Cruz helped him. He was...
At the very end, yeah.
He helped them. So, look, and Cruz wants to do that. I'm glad that Cruz wanted to do that. It helps a little bit with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's not going to be president either. it's going to be Bush or Rubio at this point.
You don't think Hillary stands a chance?
Or coming out of the GOP.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. But I don't think Hillary does stand a chance, though. I think that Hillary's not going to win. I think it's going to be a Republican. For any other reason that our presidents are selected, not elected. And I think that they are going to decide to go with a Republican this time.
It's their turn.
You could make that argument it's their turn. I don't think that they're going to let Hillary do it. She's so friggin' flawed, man. It's amazing how flawed this woman. If she wins this, man, honestly, there might be no hope. Only because, like, if you do that many bad things, like you literally said, "Screw your government email. I'm going to make my own," and I'm the head of the State Department or whatever, or what is that? Yeah,
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State.
She is the head of the State Department, but there is a title for that.
Yeah, okay, Secretary of State. Well, hold on, let's get back to the Patriot Act thing first.
Okay. Sorry, I distracted.
No, that's okay. I thought that and I also thought that a lot of the stuff that he talked about, as I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a pretty decent amount of it. I thought that the stuff that he was talking about was good. I'm glad to hear it. I really wish that the other senators heard it because, look, continuing the Patriot Act really is tantamount to terrorism. It really is, man. I mean, let's call it what it is, man. It is our Congress and our Senate creating laws, not to make us more safe, by the way. I'm so sick and tired of the neocons standing behind the children and safety and the flag and all this stuff about being un-American if you don't like the Patriot Act or something. The people that want to damage this country are the neocons. And they won't admit to it, but they're totally the ones that do. Because here's the thing. If you're going to take everybody's rights away from them, if you're going to spy on all the Americans, then the terrorists have won. And you're letting them win, other than arming them, because you're arming them too, you bunch of bastards. Along with Obama, who's, surprisingly enough, that Nobel Peace Prize winner is another damn neocon. You know, who knew? Clinton, another neocon. Again, it's not being a neocon, not even a Republican thing.
He neocons it up better than the cons.
I think he probably does it better than the con. Oh, absolutely. Because what he does is the weird thing is that they yell at him, like people like Lindsey Graham and Rubio and them yell at him for the stuff. I mean, like, we're weaker overseas because of Obama. And people buy this narrative. They buy this narrative, hook, line, and sinker. This guy drone bombs more people than Bush ever did. Don't get me wrong. He's also the guy that was in charge when we armed ISIS. But McCain took a selfie with him first off. The problems we have with ISIS right now have to do with it's bipartisan. And they armed him, whether they want to admit it or not. And you know what? If you're listening to this show, whether you want to admit it or not, it's more important right now. I know these guys are already criminals. I'm talking to people on this show, people that listen to the show, that may not want to admit that we armed them, but we friggin' did. There's no getting around that. It is on. Not only is it on record, if you were at all paying attention, you saw every bit of it. Don't get me wrong, they tried to justify it, in Syria where we gave them the weapons at. All of this, the whole breakdown of that is there. And they're about to win Syria. Well, it's really the Iranians that wanted to do that. No, because they wanted to fight them over here. Or not over here, but over in Iraq. The Iranians are fighting over there. They don't want these guys to be armed. They're going to have just as many problems as we will. I mean, more so because they're next door. Back to Rand Paul and the Patriot Act. I'm sorry, I got off topic again. Look, I'm happy with what the guy did. I really do wish, though, that they would get some serious filibustering going on and just make it so they couldn't renew this thing. That just start filibustering. This almost, and again, I'm ultimately giving him credit, and I'm also going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But I would be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge the relationship that Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell have, and think that did have something to take into consideration when it came to the timing of it and when it came to the length of it. Because you did it for a day, so you only ruined a day up there. Because by midnight you were done. And you didn't do it on the day that they're actually going to be bringing this thing up. So I'd like to see what else is going to happen here. And again, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, kind of. At the same time, it doesn't change my mind overall about Rand Paul or about Republicans in general or about Democrats in general. In all reality, it only cements it because most of the Republicans that they put back on TV after that, people like Peter King, who's a traitor to this country. I mean, let's just not even try to mince words here. Peter King is a traitor. They put, and then, all the paid NSA analysts that go on to say that, the NSA is good and you should trust them and, you should trust them because they pay me a bunch of money, I guess. Those people are, all doing it. And Fox News didn't really cover it very well. They didn't cover it like they covered Ted Cruz's deal. They totally covered Ted Cruz's deal. At any rate, let me see how I can put this. He gets the benefit of the doubt. However, he doesn't. It's not going to change my mind of who to support, who to vote for. I'm glad he did it, but again, it is what it is. Glad we're talking about the Patriot Act, and understand this. It is my opinion, and I would imagine the opinion of everybody else in this room. You aren't getting rid of the Patriot Act until you elect libertarians in office.
Agreed.
No, I agree with that. I don't give him the same benefit of the doubt that you did because of the timing of it and because of how short it was and things like that. To me, it looked like, he wanted to boost his own campaign and he wasn't actually trying to stop the Patriot Act from being reauthorized. He was trying to boost his own campaign by getting some free press, basically. And the reason why is he didn't filibuster it last time it was up. And he was in the Senate, and he didn't time this one to make it actually a filibuster. So we knew way beforehand. I mean, normally if it would have been a true filibuster, this would have come up for a vote, and he would have filibustered then and kept going to make it not be able to vote. But this was such a political ploy. Everybody knew 3 days in advance that he was going to do it. They knew what time he was going to do it and what day he was going to do it on. So that to me just looks like a political stunt and not something, do I think that he made some good points? Yeah, I think he did. But he went for free publicity and he got it and that's great. But I don't look at that as doing me any favors in the Senate as doing something for free publicity. And that's what he did. So, it doesn't change my opinion about Rand at all. It just kind of cements it that he's all out for himself and not doing the right thing. So, I actually kind of I can't give him credit this time, which I did last time. I gave him a lot of credit last time. And I can't give him credit on this one because I just, knowing how scripted it was and how set up it was like you didn't do this to make any good points or to really change anything. You're running for president and you needed to boost your numbers because, of course, an hour into it, there's emails going out asking supporters for donations. So, it just, to me, solidifies that Rand Paul isn't in this for any good, principled stance. He's in this for himself. And, and this just kind of proved it to me.
I totally agree with that. I think that this was Rand Paul trying to stop the bleeding. He is shedding supporters like crazy. He does not have the libertarian base as he thought he did. And the ones that he did have are jumping ship quickly. So I think that's totally what this was. It was political grandstanding, and it was an attempt to stop the bleeding and the loss of support that he's getting from the libertarian wing of the Republican Party and the libertarians.
I mean, people are cynical.
Are you just now figuring that out?
No, I mean, I look at it. You guys definitely free to have the opinion, and honestly, he's probably earned a lot of he's earned a lot of that. For you to have that opinion, he's earned that stuff. I don't know. I do look at it differently than you guys do. Again, it doesn't change your mind on him overall, but it does. I'm happy that he did it. Again, I think that the political theater sometimes is a good thing.
Well, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. I mean, I wasn't going to reiterate her point, but she's absolutely right that the timing on this is not actually accomplishing anything. If he really had those convictions, he would do this in a way and at a time and in a manner that is actually going to accomplish something and could actually prevent the passage of the Patriot Act again. But he's not.
I think if I didn't know that they were sending out donation requests within an hour, then I may have looked at this a lot better. But to me, this was free publicity to fill campaign coffers.
Yes.
All right. I don't want to argue about this one.
It's a whole lot cheaper to get time on C-SPAN than it is to buy commercials on Fox News.
You know what? They're probably going to end up having the vote where they are going to be debating the issue, and they're all going to be putting those amendments up there, the USA Freedom Act. That is now going to be done because of this. Now, again, it could have all been orchestrated, and that they may have been already doing that anyway. Maybe that was the deal he made with McConnell, of that I'm going to do this and then make sure you let these things go up for a vote. But at any rate, those things are going to be going up for a vote now, and amendments that could be helpful to making it better, at least we'll have a shot at the floor, even though it's not going to pass because of the people that are up there. But, we'll just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. Jesus.
It's pretty bad when we're the cynical ones, and he's...
Look, man, it didn't change my mind at all. I mean, it didn't change my mind on him, but, I don't know. I just think that you guys are just kind of... You're not seeing any benefit to what happened. There's absolutely a benefit. And to overlook that, I don't know. I don't think you should overlook it.
Maybe I'm not seeing the same benefit you're seeing then, because the benefit I'm seeing is to Rand Paul's campaign, not to our liberty. So if I'm missing it, I'm open for an explanation. What am I missing as to the benefit to our liberty and not the benefit to Rand Paul's campaign?
Well, I think the first one would be the education of the public on this one. Is that every time you do something like this, it does become national news. You have a lot more people that are focused on it. You're going to have those other people reacting to it. So it does, initiate I hate to say initiate a conversation, but at least it puts the Patriot Act in the spotlight. And if anybody, hopefully, somebody may have happened to tune on to C-SPAN and heard what he was saying, because he was talking about a lot of different stuff up there that I thought was good stuff. So I think that this expands the people that are in the know on things like the Patriot Act, and it expands the base of people that are opposed to the Patriot Act, I think. Again, not by a whole terrible amount of people. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden the whole world is like, oh gosh, the Patriot Act is so bad. It's nothing like that. But I think that it does help when it comes to exposing more people to what the Patriot Act really is.
I don't really think it does, because the only real news exposure, media exposure that he's getting from this is from the 24-hour news cycles. This wasn't talked about on the NBC nightly news or like the regular 6 o'clock nightly news. This was not a big deal to them. This didn't make it into that news cycle. Now you get to like the shows that talk politics all the time. Well, people who watch those already know what the Patriot Act is, and they're either for it or against it already. So this isn't a newsworthy story that's being picked up in the more open news cycles, the more mainstream news cycles.
Yeah, the ones that most people don't watch.
Yeah, well, no, most people do watch those. Most people don't watch C-SPAN. Most people don't watch the 24-hour news networks.
Well, no, the numbers
That's
are going
where
down.
this is
The numbers
about.
are going down on all of that stuff, though. Most people get their information from the internet now.
Well, absolutely, you're absolutely right on that. But my point is, more common people that aren't engaged, that don't know about the Patriot Act, watch the 6 o'clock news over the 24-hour news stations.
Yeah.
That's why they're disengaged and don't know these things, because they're not.
And they're on the internet.
Yeah, so I don't think he's really bringing any more attention to the Patriot Act than it already had. The only people who are really hearing about this are people who already know what it is and either are for it or against it already. So I don't think he's really adding anything to the conversation or bringing to light anything new or exposing it to anybody that doesn't already know.
God, you cynical people.
I won't deny that either.
For real, though. Like, seriously. I don't even know why you even want to change anything at this point right now. Oh my God!
I think if Rand Paul had gone and done big speeches in colleges about the Patriot Act, I would have a lot more respect for that. If he went, if he went to places where there were big crowds and said, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm running for president, but we're about to reauthorize the Patriot Act, and this is why it's so bad." I think then I would have given him a lot of credit. I don't give him credit because of the way he went about it.
Agreed.
It's the floor of the U.S. Senate.
But you know what would have been bigger news is that the Patriot Act was not renewed because of a filibuster and this would be the first filibuster to accomplish a non-vote in like 50 years. That would have made news everywhere.
Yes, and I tell you what, if he does a real filibuster and actually stops the Patriot Act, we will be on. I'm sure Danielle.
I will spend 3 hours talking about how great it was.
We will sing his praises.
I got to tell you, I know exactly how that show's going to go on that Friday, and it's going to be like, look, man, they're just going to renew it anyway. I'm not going to give them a credit for that. That's exactly how it's going to go down. I already know.
If he filibusters it today and they don't get to vote on it and session ends, I will give him a lot of credit because that is when you can be effective, and that is what we send our senators up there to do.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. God, man.
I won't disagree with you though. That
No,
I would say they're still going to reauthorize.
No.
And listen, I'll be like, but now it's on us to pressure every one of our senators to do the same thing. But and that's the thing. But I'll give Rand Paul all sorts of credit if he does that.
Yeah. We'll give him the credit if he actually accomplishes something.
I doubt it.
It's so funny that we're the ones that are anti-Rand Paul this time, and he's for it.
I'm not for the man. Like I said,
why?
it didn't change my mind.
He loves a filibuster.
He does.
Alex is like, I want to be up there. I want to be filibustering. I'll talk for a month.
Yeah. Yeah, he envies anybody that gets like
That gets
12
a
hours
chance
of
to
mic time.
filibuster.
I do love the filibuster, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's one of the greatest things it's one of the reasons that I wanted to run for the Senate.
And not like a congressional seat.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the same.
Right.
Senators can filibuster.
Right.
One man, and that's why I think. Look, I think this is one of those kind of. It's not used nearly enough.
Agreed.
I think that it's one of the things that is a great thing about the way that this country was set up government wise is the filibuster. It's a great feature. And one man elected to the Senate can totally make a difference.
And I wish we had that man.
Oh, I do too.
Yes. and I think that the filibuster and the lack of its use is a great example of how in bed together the Democrats and the Republicans are. They're not actually going to take any real steps to prevent each other from doing anything. They could filibuster all the time. There are a lot of different things. There are a lot of mechanisms built into our government that allow them to prevent each other from taking steps that they vehemently disagree with. And they never do because they are in bed together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this, listen, they brought back up this is I think a new report. The FBI, and this is in the Washington Times, the FBI has had to admit that they've actually not ever cracked a case using the provisions of the Patriot Act. Not ever. Like when they say, okay, how many cases have you been able to, crack and get better information because of the Patriot Act? And it's a big goose egg. It's zero.
Yeah.
Terrorism cases. I bet you they got a lot of drug cases.
Oh, sure.
I bet you there are a lot of people sitting in jail on marijuana or cocaine charges because of the provisions of the Patriot Act. But no terrorists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. A lot of them are sitting in jail. Well, because they end up using the Patriot Act for the drug war.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's the other reason why they don't really want it to go away right now. Doesn't have as much to do with terrorism as it has to do with, civil asset forfeiture and the drug war, because these guys love them some drug war.
And quite frankly, and people like us. It's not the war on terror. It's everything else that they want it for. They want to be able to listen in on the phone calls of political dissidents.
Yeah.
They want to be able to listen in on the phone calls of suspected drug dealers. And they want to be able to track what Americans are doing that they don't agree with.
Yeah, and I think that's really the one thing I have a serious problem with. I mean, I got you can go down chapter and verse of all the problems that I have with disgusting people like Marco Rubio, because I really don't like this man. I really don't like Rubio whatsoever. But one of the things that they say, they're not tracking anybody. They're not actually, they're not listening in on conversations. Hey, that is so much. Not only is that a lie, it's already been proven that that's a lie. And it's been weird ways in which it was proven. Like on what was the name of the show? It was one of the late night talk shows, and it was a Hollywood actor. It was a Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf or something like that, where he actually they were recording him. That the feds were actually recording his conversations with people, and they played it back for him. What do you mean? Was this guy up for some terrorism charges that we didn't know about? No, he was just a regular citizen.
Those Transformer movies.
They were trying to stop another Indiana Jones movie, and I'm all for that. Oh, my goodness.
Maybe they thought that the Decepticons were coming, and he knew.
Yeah, maybe. But just to hear Rubio go on there, and then he was actually the Senate president at the time, or presiding over it at the time for Rand's filibuster, because when it was over,
right.
You actually heard Rubio. So if you're looking at like the younger people here or whatever up in Washington, you got the Rand Paul, and then you got Rubio. I mean, Rubio is the great neocon hope. This guy is totally the great neocon.
He's carrying the torch, man.
He is really carrying the torch on this one. And I do think that like people like Graham are going to get in this race, but at the end get out, and then probably support people like Rubio.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like it might be one of those things where he's doing it to try to help the Rube, and it really is amazing. It's amazing, and Rubio is such a complete freaking scumbag. In every aspect, in his total life, he is a complete scumbag. Again, never served a day in the military, and yet wants to send our kids overseas to have them get killed. You know what I mean? Has used campaign money and government money to live way beyond his means. It still ain't enough. You know what I mean? Because he had to get, in order to run for president, he had to already get rid of his own personal retirement accounts and stuff like that to go buy a $3,000 fridge. This guy, and he's probably got a gold digger for a wife, who is just making him spend as much money as humanly possible. I shouldn't even say that though. That's probably the wrong way to say it. That I think Rubio actually in the situation is probably more of the gold digger than his wife is.
Well, he gave her.
She was
job.
a bundler.
Birds of a feather, I think.
He gave her a job at one point.
Well, yeah, and they have a catering company that they use for one person who's like a multi-billionaire. You know what I mean? Guy's like a billionaire. She does the catering for him, and he's still
he's not getting extra services.
This guy making hundreds of $1,000s a year, and he's still freaking broke. And this guy's a joke. And again, you want this guy running the books. You want this guy dealing with the budgets. But this is what you got. And unfortunately, I live in Florida where. As much as I love this state, sometimes I got to give you guys some crap. You guys elected this cat.
Well, I didn't.
I didn't. I know. I tried to give you another choice.
I voted for somebody in this room, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Me too.
It really is sad that you guys decided to vote for a scumbag like Rubio, and I really hope you can make up for it this time by making sure he doesn't win Florida. Again, I don't want you to give it to Jeb either. I don't care who you give it to.
Quite frankly, I would rather Jeb than Marco. I don't want Jeb, but I would much rather take Jeb than Marco.
He's just a quieter kind of neocon, but he's still a neocon nonetheless.
Yeah. Still.
I would never want Jeb to be president, but he wasn't the worst governor we had.
Yeah.
Again, Rubio is a scumbag. And I know it's just like, well, that's easy to say. He's a scumbag. There's no getting around that. So
it's easy to say. That's why we say it.
Yeah.
It is easy to say because he proves it daily.
Well, the other thing is this. Look, and again, he's part of the faction of people that supported us arming ISIS. Whether they want to admit that or not, it doesn't change the fact that that's what happened. He wanted us to arm the rebels in Syria. Even more so, he wanted us to go into Syria. He's the one that wanted us to overthrow Gaddafi in Libya. When Gaddafi, in all reality, Gaddafi was zero threat to the United States at the time. Zero threat. Gaddafi was no threat whatsoever. As a matter of fact, Gaddafi was looking to normalize relations anyway.
Well, let's be honest about Gaddafi. He was a threat. He was organizing a single gold-backed currency across Africa. And he already had all of Northern Africa on board ready to do it. That is why we had to go after him.
That is the truth.
That facts on record. That is what he was doing. That is what he was working on. That is why he was so respected, because he was no longer being a crazy man and was actually having normal political talks with his neighboring countries and making progress and getting things done.
Well, look, and remember what happened is that the argument turned into, if you didn't support doing this, then you were okay with letting him get away with something that happened like 15 years earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to wait till now, and then if we say, well, you shouldn't do it right now, but if you don't want to do it right now, you're the anti-American, but if you didn't want to do it for the past 15 years, you were okay?
Let's go back 25 years when we installed him.
Yeah, exactly.
He is in power there because of us, remember?
Was, because he's dead now.
Yeah.
Because, once we're done with you,
Yeah.
we'll bring a bunch of terrorists in to get you.
Yeah.
Dead man
We'll,
tell no
we'll arm
tales.
your enemies.
And look, here's the other thing, though. Again, they want to blame Obama for what happened to the ambassador and to those people in Benghazi, and Obama definitely deserves some of the blame. Clinton deserves some of the blame. So does Rubio. So does Graham. So does Rubio, Graham, and McCain. Those three deserve a lot of the blame on it because they are the ones that wanted him to go in there. So you can get mad at Obama, as you should. You can get mad at Clinton, as you should. But you got to get mad at Rubio and the rest of them. They created the conditions to make this happen.
Yeah, there's plenty of Benghazi blame to go around.
Yeah, blood's on their hands, whether they want to admit it or not. It is. And it's sad. It really is sad. At the end of the day, it's sad. Because it would be nice if we would stop arming them.
It's sad because Americans are dead and no one seems to care.
Yeah, nobody's even worried about it. It's like, and we just keep sending in more. Well, we'll just keep sending in more. I mean, will we have to? The terrorists win if we don't. There's no reason to continue this.
Well, look, let me say it like this, and I put this up there a while back, but I'm just going to keep reiterating the same thing. If you think these guys are a problem, then stop arming them. Period. If you think they're a problem, stop giving them weapons. If you're so concerned about how friggin' dangerous they are over there, then stop giving them the AKs and the missiles and American tanks in order to do that. Because that's what you did. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's what we did. We armed them. ISIS is the most dangerous organization right now because we armed them. We got the receipts. The video proof is there. It's all done. And again, if you have a hard time getting past that, if in your mind you can't wrap your head around the fact, F-A-C-T, fact, that we did this, then you need to have your freaking head examined. Because it's exactly what we did. It pisses me off that we have to have, ISIS is really bad right now. That's why we have to have things like the Patriot Act. If it concerns you so much, where the hell were you when we were arming them? You were nowhere because you liked it that we armed them. And that's why people like Peter King, like Rubio, like Graham, like Obama, like Clinton, they are traitors. They should be up on charges for treason for aiding the enemy. Because that's exactly what they did. And those charges should be able to stick, but they're not going to.
Well,
and none of this is going to happen. Go ahead.
Well, technically, they weren't aiding the enemy. They created the enemy.
Right.
No, then they aided them, though.
Yeah. I mean, they arm both sides of the wars. That's why this isn't going to stop. They're not going to stop arming these people because it's necessary for what they do to work. They have to arm these people to create a dangerous element so they can then keep the American people in fear of this dangerous element that they created so they can put in more laws like the Patriot Act and send more troops overseas and keep doing the things that they're doing. This is part of their cycle. They can't stop doing it because it's part of their game.
Yeah. Just remember, man, when you vote for either the Democrats or Republicans, this is what you're voting for, whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not. Obama's proven that without a shadow of a doubt. This guy talked so much trash beforehand, they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, and he melted it down and made bullets with it.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
I like that.
That might be the most profound thing you've said in a few weeks now.
Absolutely.
That's what he did.
I love that.
I
I'm
like
memeing
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're creating a meme for that.
I mean, that's what else did he do, man? This is what this guy did. So the Democrats are the anti-war left, man. You guys, your people are just as bad as the ones on the right, man. This will get fixed when you start electing libertarians to office. Period. And there's not like, well, maybe we can take over the GOP from the inside. No, sorry. Well, maybe the Democrats will turn around and they won't be so bad. No, not going to happen. Clinton's got it going on. Clinton's got it going on.
I thought you were going to start rapping for a second there.
Yeah. Bill's wife has got it going on. I mean, that's what she's running away with it. And the people over there have no idea what she even stands for. They don't even care. It's like, well, we just need to make sure that we elect a woman the next time because now we have a black person that won the office.
Yeah, we see how well that did for the black people.
Right.
The black people in Baltimore are like, man, I'm glad we got a black president in, so everything's changed.
That's the other thing, by the way. And I totally forgot about this. This was, it's not up there, but it kind of has to do with at least where we're going right now. We've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Right now, underneath 6 or 7 years of Barack Obama, the income gap between the richest and the poorest is the widest it's ever been.
Just another one of his broken campaign promises.
Like, at what point and again, people that are listening may not, I hope people that don't agree with me are listening. Let me ask you a serious question. Are you going to blame socialism for this? Because we don't live under capitalism. We don't live under a free market, economy. By any stretch of the imagination, it's not. Anything we advocate for, it's not happening right now. So it's under way closer to what you people want than it's what we want. And the income, and you got Obama into office. I mean, Obama's in office. 2 years of a completely controlled Democrat Congress. Income gap's greater than it's ever been. Explain that one to me. And you're going to go, well, it's the corporations that are the problem. You mean the ones that gave Barack Obama all the money in order to get reelected? Is that the ones that you're talking about? So maybe you should stop electing people that they like. And guess who the banks like now? Clinton and Bush. And Ted Cruz. Really weird, but, at any rate.
Well, he has the ties to the banks in Wall Street, and that's why.
Oh yeah, because of his wife.
Right? They're not giving him money because they think he's going to win. They're giving him money because they want to continue that relationship
With his wife.
Yeah.
They want to keep him in the pocket.
Yeah.
Well, and Chris Christie came out going back to the original subject of the Patriot Act.
All right.
Chris Christie came out, and a lot of these guys are now. And what this does is draw all these guys out to defend the Patriot Act. So Chris Christie, and why do they keep asking Chris Christie these questions?
I don't know.
Like, he's the governor of New Jersey. Who cares what he thinks about?
He's not running for president.
He keeps saying that. Like, this guy has had the longest non-campaign going than anyone I've ever met. Because it's literally been like 8 years of non-campaigning where everybody wants to know where Chris Christie stands on stuff.
It's longer than the amount of food that he had the government buy out of the stadium.
He's like the anti-Ron Paul. Ron Paul's running for president, can't get any press. Chris Christie isn't running for president. That's all they want to. He's the only person they want to put
I think
on
that
TV.
the news media outlets are afraid that he'll eat them.
It's possible.
Fat bastard.
So
And
Chris,
I'm allowed to say that because I'm a fat guy. So I'm good.
So Chris Christie actually said, and I can't even believe he said this. He's like, you can't enjoy your civil liberties if you're in a coffin.
Oh, yeah. And this is another one of these themes, man. Another one of these themes of again, there's no proof that the Patriot Act has solved anything.
In fact, there's proof that it has not solved anything.
And it's just, that's actually proof that Chris Christie is a coward. He would rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And he wants you to feel the same way.
Unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, by the way. Like, I'm...
Are you gonna cry?
No, I'm not going to cry.
I think he's trying to hold back yelling.
I am trying to hold back yelling because it really is getting very, very annoying. Of people like Christie, of people like Lindsey Graham, of people like John McCain, of people like Marco Rubio. The neocons are getting me very, very angry. You know, I kind of took a step back of national stuff for a while and really tried to focus a lot of effort on Florida stuff.
We did.
Which I think was a good thing to do, by the way. So I'm not trying to say that it wasn't a good thing to do. But it did kind of take away a little bit for some of the original reasons that I know that I got involved. I think that you actually can be a little bit down this road as well when it came to foreign policy.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I got involved because of much more a state issue, but I'm a big anti-war person, so that's what got me on some of these things.
Yeah, foreign policy is a big thing, and I think that sometimes even it's a national issue, and it's hard to make a huge difference because, you know, dealing with the state's easier than dealing with the feds. And you actually end up getting a lot more agreement on the state issues than you do on the federal issues. But with that being said, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be at least spending some time with the federal issues. And, I mean, it's one of the reasons why, you know, when I got my own... Funny enough, this all started... I started focusing on it more when I got my own Twitter account.
Well, because
I didn't understand that, by the way.
because Twitter is global, so people tend to talk about national issues on Twitter.
Much more
It's
than
what gets
state
trending
issues.
and stuff.
Yeah. So then I do have the hashtag no more neocons that I'm trying to propagate. I really am. I'm doing it a lot, actually. So, but at any rate,
Didn't you get a website?
no, I haven't. It's not up yet though. It ain't even close to up. I mean, there's so many other things I got to do first. Anyway.
But he does,
Did you create another Facebook page?
No, I didn't.
No, but he does own the website nomoreneocons.com.
Yes, we got to get rid of these people from public office, man. And I don't mean like go in there and shoot them in the head, even though that'd be easier to do. We got to get rid of these people, though.
Well, ultimately, if we can't do it by the ballot box, it has to be done by the cartridge box. They are going to drive it to the... I mean, regardless of what anyone thinks of them, humanity runs in cycles. And we go through cycles of freedom and tyranny. And then we have a revolution, and we reset everything, and then it cycles back around. So if they don't want to allow a revolution to happen by the ballot box, they're forcing themselves to be shot. Because it will happen by the cartridge box if they don't allow change to happen another way.
Yeah. No,
That historical precedent.
you ain't just whistling Dixie.
We're
son.
talking over 10,000 years of historical record that supports this. They are not going to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are exactly right. Now, what's the thing about the presidential debates that came up there, Danielle?
So, Fox News has, you know, because when we're talking about these issues where every single one of the candidates, potential candidates, anyone who's even said the word president is now being asked what they think about these issues. And so, you know, and a lot of times they say, you know, I can't wait to debate these issues with the people. But in the actual presidential debate, you're not going to be hearing everybody's opinion. Because the first debate, the first primary, you know, presidential primary debate is going to be held by Fox News and Facebook. They've partnered together to host the first Republican presidential primary debate, and they're only allowing the top 10, and it's not the top 10 like
No, not 12 anymore. Top 10.
it's not. It's top 10. And not only, you know, the reason why we ended up with 12 or 15 is because what it used to be is you had to be in the top 10 of any poll. So because polls vary, you would have 15 people that had qualified because they were in the top 10 of a poll. Now they're saying it's the top 10 in an average of 5 polls. They're averaging the 5 polls, and the top 10 of that average, you will only see 10 on the debate stage.
You know, since you guys took a different position earlier today, I'm going to take a different position than you now. And I'm going to defend them for this one.
I haven't even stated my position.
You have no idea what my position is.
You know what? I don't care. Go first then so I can do whatever the opposite is.
All I have to say is talk about an unholy alliance. Facebook and Fox News together. Jeez.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Let's go on the opposite again.
So I actually listen. I think that they're a private organization. They're allowed to do this. You know, a lot of people are mad at them. I mean, you know, they're allowed to do it. I probably would have put more people on the stage, but you know, if that's what they want to do. They're at least putting it out early enough for people to be able to qualify.
Yeah. It's true.
Look, here's the thing. What I will say is, how many people can you realistically have on a stage to make a debate watchable? And I don't think that the number's over 10. I actually don't think the number's even 10.
I understand that. I agree with that.
Maybe an 8 would work better than a 10.
Well, here's the thing. Because of the way they do the debates, because they don't actually request that they answer the questions, it doesn't really matter. If they were actually going to hold their feet to the fire and say, no, wait, I asked you a specific question, I would like an answer to it, instead of you just like rallying off the next in your list of talking points that you want to get to, then I would care. I really don't care about the presidential debates. I mean, I do fight for them to include the libertarian candidate because I have a problem with him being excluded. But as far as the rest of the debates go, they're worthless to me. They don't make sense, and they're more political theater because they don't actually get real answers out of anybody. They let them say whatever they want, whenever they want, and don't care. That's anarchy. The presidential debate stage is anarchy because they ask them questions and no one ever answers them and they say whatever they want. And they go off on these tangents and end up arguing with each other on points that are made that had nothing to do with the question.
Yeah.
Well, and I look at the primary debate, it's very different than I look at the end presidential debate because the primary debates are really only for one party.
Yes.
You know, so, but if it was me...
well, that's not... Well, I mean... Depending on the year, depends on what party it's for, though. And
but
if
it's
for
still
one or
only
both.
one.
Well, no. If it's an open, if you're going with an open seat, then both of them normally would have a larger primary.
Right, they're both going to have a primary, but this presidential primary debate is only for Republicans.
Oh, I got you.
Now there may be another one that's only for Democrats, but again, it's still only one party.
Yeah.
If I was hosting debates, I would probably do it more of there's several different ones, and you may have, 5 people in the first one and then 5 different people in the next one, so that everybody does get to debate, everybody does get to answer the questions, but you don't have 12 people and 15 and 20 people on the same stage because it would need to be a 6-hour debate to even hear all the answers.
Yeah, I don't think logistically you can put them all on there. I mean, you just can't do that. So how you break it down or get it, lower. I don't know how they're going to do it anyway, though, because somebody's going to be mad. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a lot of them in there. Again, who are you going to leave out? Who's getting left out? And that's going to be interesting to see who they do actually leave out.
I think they should do it like brackets.
I think they should do it in a cage so we could get rid of most of them.
Absolutely, Thunderdome.
Yeah,
we totally need
get a bunch
the
killed off.
Thunderdome.
That way we can get a bunch killed off.
I think we should do it like brackets, and it's a whole thing. I think that would be, everybody would get involved because you could bet on it.
Yeah.
You could be choosing your brackets.
Probably only at an Indian casino, though.
Well, yeah.
Gambling's illegal everywhere.
But still,
Exactly.
I'm just saying, you want to get more people engaged and involved, make these presidential primaries because you have enough people to do it. Put them in brackets and let them battle it out.
Yeah. Let UFC host it instead of Fox.
And Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook and Fox. Have them do it.
Oh, man.
Fox
What an
and-
unholy alliance that is.
Fox
Jeez.
and
I
Facebook?
cannot get over that.
I actually had to read it a few times, and then I had to go check my source to make sure that I was not like on the Onion. Like,
Exactly.
keep going back. Like, wait, no, this is a press release from Fox News. Wait, am I sure I'm on the right place? Because it's like
It totally does sound like an Onion article, though.
All right.
Facebook.
All right. Let's take a break here. Let's take a break. When we get back, Adrian is a guest in studio. Just for the record. Yeah, guest. I said guest, didn't I? Matter of fact, make sure you write underneath Adrian's name special guest. Put special guest though. We'll put special guest.
I can't redo that right now.
All right.
Actually, right under his name, it's going to say Alexander Snicker.
Yeah, I should just put one up for you. Put a completely random name up there.
Hold on. Magnolia Pussy Thunder. Or Thunder Pussy. Magnolia Thunder Pussy.
No.
Did you guys hear about that, by the way,
Yeah,
before we
we
take a break?
did.
Did you hear this? Did you?
I did not.
Okay, we were talking about Lindsey Graham on a thing, and Joe Tay said that he knew a drag queen in Sarasota that used to go to this club called Magnolia Thunder Pussy.
And that Lindsey Graham reminds him, this face look reminds him of this drag queen.
Nice.
That's America.
Yeah.
That's
But I do
beautiful.
have to say that this was not a well thought out plan on Alex's to bring Adrian in, so the name tag underneath is not prepared. Because I went to Greg, because Greg last night, and I went, do you know what time Adrian's coming in? And he goes, Adrian's coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I saw both of you last night, and neither of you said anything.
Didn't happen till the end. Hold on, it didn't happen till the end, a-hole. That's true, but this didn't happen. That's true, but this didn't happen till the end, though. Did it?
So
That was
that's-
already gone by then.
So that's why Adrian's name tag will still say
and I told
Alexander.
Danielle's supposed to tell Greg.
Last night when Greg had been with you?
Exactly.
My paycheck better be ready as soon as I leave.
Oh yeah, I'll bet it is. All right, look, take a break here real quick. We get back. We'll let Adrian talk for a little while. I have to take care of some business. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Join with libertarians from across the Sunshine State as we gather for the 2015 Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention, scheduled for June 5th through the 7th. The LPF State Convention will take place at the Quality Inn & Suites Conference Center in historic Newport Richey, Florida. Gary Johnson is the keynote speaker for the convention. Other speakers in attendance include Ben Swan, Adam Kokesh, Tony Stiles, and more. For more information, visit the website at lpf2015.com. Once again, the website address is lpf2015.com.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress of being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
And we're back for the second hour of the Liberty Underground show. I have to bring us
to
in.
teach Adrian how to be on radio again.
Exactly. Yes, we have a special guest host for this hour.
Wait, no, that's incorrect. It's not guest host. It's me coming in just to oversee and make sure everything's going well with my show.
Yeah, coming from the guy who didn't remember to put headphones on before we got back.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I am rusty at this. But I didn't realize that we literally walked in the room as we were coming back. I expected a little more prep than that.
So did you not?
What are you doing coming in right at 10? Normally we come in at 10:06.
No, we don't in the second hour.
Ah.
We do that in the third hour because of the Tan Talk. But no, we come in right at 10 o'clock.
I didn't approve that change.
But the funny thing is that Greg was saying, we're back, and you're just looking at him like, what?
What does that mean?
I don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
What is this thing in front of me here?
And then you looked at him for a little bit, and he goes, do you not wear headphones? We're back.
Headphones, right.
Headphones.
Right.
That's how I hear things.
Well, welcome everyone. It's good to be back in the big chair here at the Liberty Underground show on the 1787 Radio Network. Alex has been keeping it warm for me here this morning, but it's nice to regain my rightful place, as I occasionally like to do on this show. So anyway, I have absolutely no show prep, so that's it's just kind of a random session of chat. Found out that I would be filling in, about 10 o'clock last night?
Yeah, about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, and you found out about, 5 minutes ago?
About an hour ago.
Oh, about an hour ago. Oh, well, at least that's something.
Because
the communication on the show is fantastic.
Last night, Alex told me, and I knew that you and Alex and Greg were all at the same place last night, and that is the place where Alex asked you to come on today. So I'm like, all right, everybody knows. I come. Hey, Greg, do you know what time Adrian's coming in? And he goes, Adrian's coming? So I'm like, well, I guess you don't know then.
And it's a good thing that I got here earlier than I normally do. I got here about 5 minutes to 10, which for me is quite early. But, I thought, oh, that's great. I could have rolled in at, like 10:03 thinking we're going on at 10:06. So, normally my modus operandi there, but I managed to pull it off a little early there.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Still came late because he couldn't get his headphones on.
He still started late because he's like, what are these things that are in front of me? I don't understand the words we're coming back.
This part goes over the top, right?
What is this blasted?
And every time Greg is saying it, he's getting more and more frantic with you.
What are you getting so upset about, Greg?
We're back. Hey, he's like, hey, we're coming back. Oh yeah, we're coming back.
From
Where? Coming back. Hey,
Where have we been?
Back. We're back.
Coming back on the air, folks.
and Mr. I'm running for governor. It was like, what?
I gotta say, I've not been doing nearly as many speaking engagements lately, and that is a skill that becomes rusty very quickly.
It
does. It does.
And so does radio, quite frankly.
Well, luckily we have someone on the line who can carry this segment for you.
That's good, because I'm failing miserably here so far.
Brandon, are you on the line, sir?
I am, and hearing Adrian's voice gives me like a Blues Brothers moment. I feel like we're getting the band back together.
Yeah.
It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Once we actually convince him that he knows what a microphone does and headphones does and how to talk on the radio, we'll all be good.
Am I talking into the right side of this? Okay, just making sure. Brandon, how you
what
doing,
happens
brother?
when you spend time wading in the political pool? You start to lose all common sense.
Yeah, my radio skills are withered and wrinkled like someone who's been in the bathtub for 3 hours.
Now we're making Cocoon references. I'm very disturbed.
I'm being told by Greg to move my exorbitantly large soda.
Yeah, because it's right in front of the camera.
Oh, is it? Little plug there for whatever gas station I stopped at. So, Brandon, what's going on in the world of the global dispatch, my friend?
Well, actually, we kind of aligned a lot of the stories this morning. Got some of the updates from the show prep that you guys sent over. It was really some good finds. And, I think that there's talked about ISIS a little bit in the first part of the show. And obviously, the one thing I wanted to point out, too, is that we have ISIS not only taking Ramadi in Iraq, but they've moved forward with capturing a very critical city in northern Syria as well. So that's expanding. Of course, here in the States, we have this, crazy story out of Oregon about this gas tax thing, about, taxing you per mile rather than, a fuel tax. And what was interesting about that is how much the liberals of Oregon have put in place so much support to go green and green energy and fuel-efficient cars. Yet this actually penalizes those exact people. The Prius driver will actually pay more than the F-150 using their own data that we pulled off their website and their own talking points. So it's a lot of good stories out there right now.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. And, I think that as we move away from fossil fuels as a primary energy source, they're going to find new ways to tax everything that we do. What kind of signal are you giving me now?
Get closer to the microphone.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm getting messages that you're off.
Well, crank me up a little bit because I really don't want to put my mouth that close to anything Alex has been this close to. So, just kind of a weird thing for me. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening, Brandon. Is that
doesn't it show that there's really kind of a hollowness then behind the green energy support? I mean, this is the far left northwest that they're pounding the drum for all of us to drive a little 4-cylinder or a battery charged Prius. Yet basically, this is saying, well, listen, go buy your SUV and your Hummer. You're going to come out actually better than the guy who just bought his Prius.
Well, I don't think it necessarily goes against the movement of going green. I think it goes against the movement of going green and using the government to facilitate this.
Right.
Because government is just going to screw it all up. To me, this sounds like a be careful what you wish for kind of situation, because now, like you said, the liberals that are driving the Priuses are going to end up paying more in taxes than the people that they thought they were going to really be penalizing with this.
Yeah, and it also goes to show that the bottom line is always revenue when it comes to governments.
Yes.
They're going to find a way to increase revenue, and I can pretty much guarantee you that the gasoline taxes are not going away. This is going to be an additional tax.
Oh, yeah.
This is because taxes never go away. They're going to get their pound of flesh from any direction they can.
Well, that's not how they're pitching it. They are pitching it as a replacement. So we'll see how it actually materializes, or if it actually goes beyond the initial test, which is supposed to begin in July, and we'll see how that works. And again, it's very voluntary. The other two aspects that I did include in the article was, number one, there's really no discussion of how you're going to deal with the integrity of the tracking. So if they say you've driven 5,000 miles and your odometer is only showing that it's increased by 3, how are you going to fight that? And then more importantly, just the fact that you're tracked, just the fact that this little GPS-driven device will actually know where you are, where you're traveling, when you've left the state, when you're outside of the range that they're tracking, and it's just the idea of giving that up, that freedom and that right to privacy of when you're tracked.
I can almost guarantee you that within 6 months of deployment of this system, there will be an iPhone's app that hacks these things. And you can set it to whatever you want, and you're going to have a whole bunch of people that are paying, 35 cents in annual travel taxes, even though they've driven 100,000 miles. That is one of the upsides, and coming from someone who is essentially a hacker, that the further our government goes into the technology of tracking us and taxing us via this technology, the higher the likelihood that countermeasures are set up to defeat it. And, it may not be legal and prudent to do so in all cases. I support anyone who tries that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's just a bad idea to set up your revenue based on something that can be wiped out by an EMP.
Well, yeah. Everything can be wiped out by an EMP, so.
I mean, it's just a bad idea.
Well, and again, also you're talking about, it's all about revenue. So what happens if people just don't travel? They're just holding any revenue. So, the entire concept is just absurd and ridiculous. And as Adrian said, anything they can do to get revenue. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Hey, I see another article on here about Rand Paul and Jeb Bush disagreeing on the Patriot Act. But I wanted to ask you, Brandon, what are your thoughts on the, 10 or 12 hour filibuster that Rand pulled off yesterday?
Well, I mean, I heard the show kind of go back and forth on this, and I'm not sure exactly. I think I actually agree with Alex on this one more than I think Greg and Danielle. But I'll take any information to the general public. I'll take any discussion of NSA monitoring, tracking, the Patriot Act to follow the ineffectiveness of that. We actually don't do a good enough job of trying to call for the disbandment and the getting rid of all of Homeland Security, since they don't do anything that keeps us secure. I was interviewed last night on a show, and I pointed out, it says, if this was remotely as accurate as they claim it is, then why did we have the Boston bomber? Because that entire situation, it was revealed that every single person and their mother and other family members were being tracked and had actually been questioned by the government because of this tracking, and yet it still didn't happen. So it shows how ineffective, useless, and expensive all of this is. So, look, I'm not thrilled about Rand's motivations and some of the political things and the timing of all this, but at the same time, I will not take away having those discussions and at least trying to possibly slow down some of the votes and discussions. But it's not going to happen. He's outnumbered. Even if they filibuster today, they could filibuster next week. The reality is it's just going to wear them down. They'll all vote. And what we pointed out in the article was how quick Jeb Bush was to race to be so boisterous in his support, renewal, calling out Rand Paul and others who talk about how the unconstitutional aspects of all this are completely wrong. It really, to be honest, Jeb actually separates himself from even his brother of being, he's more Dick Cheney than Dick Cheney may be. It was crazy what came out of Jeb's book. I was shocked that this came out of Jeb's mouth yesterday, or 2 days ago.
He can out Cheney. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
Jeb has undergone a pretty substantial transformation over the past few years. It's astounding because I didn't think as governor he was exceptionally horrible, but now just as his transition to the level of authoritarian that he's gone to is it's pretty surprising to me, actually.
But you have to
He
remember,
sounded like Lindsey Graham, did he not?
Yeah, very much so.
As governor, foreign policy wasn't ever discussed. He was a governor. He wasn't talking about ISIS. He, at that time it wasn't, around, but he wasn't talking about those things. He's running for governor. So, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe he's saying this now. Well, we never heard him say it before because it wasn't germane to where he was running. He probably always had these views. It's just nobody cared what he thought about it before.
Well, it's on an issue by issue basis. You're absolutely right. He wouldn't have been talking about foreign policy, but you tend to glean an underlying, philosophy from someone based on their actions. And I wouldn't have put him this far in the neocon camp as he's gone. And he is, he's, like you said, he's probably shoulder to shoulder with Lindsey Graham at this point, and probably Dick Cheney's right there with him. So
He's going on this path of, you didn't think I was that bad as governor? Well, let me get the presidency and show you how bad I can be.
I'm waiting for him and John McCain to do a Bomb Iran duet.
Now, I saw another story on the front page of the Global Dispatch, Brandon, and I didn't read the whole story. If you could expound on this. ISIS camps along Mexican-U.S. border?
Yeah, we're finding cells. It really shouldn't surprise anyone. I think many of us have been calling for that the entire concept of homeland security, border security, fighting ISIS and all that's going to be completely irrelevant if you're going to try to deal with the Canadian and the Mexican border. So now we're actually finding little cells. We're finding pockets of this. Again, pointed out, these guys are using Twitter. They're taking photos on U.S. soil. If you're capturing all the metadata, you have all these files, then why aren't there arrests? So it's like once or twice a month we hear about something, but there usually is not using the NSA monitoring and tracking, those kinds of things. So, as I said, I think I said before, the scales have been tipped pretty far. I don't think it's right to just dismiss the ISIS situation, how far it's gone, that there is an actual threat in our country, because you have people that are here that have embraced jihadism. They really have embraced this martyrdom, and they really can pose a threat to our culture and our society and our citizens. But at the same time, how we deal with that, we just got to use, a dose of some common sense. And in this case, the story really does kind of hopefully illustrate where we may want to actually be focusing some energy and some resources and not be talking about our global plan for Egypt and giving them tanks and selling F-16s to Middle Eastern countries that are yelling death to America in the streets.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I do actually question how legitimate the threat of ISIS is to the U.S. You know, especially if you look in the, with the exception of the Boston Marathon bombing, if you look at most of the scenarios where people who were trying to commit acts of mass murder, Islamic fundamentalists were trying to commit acts of terrorism. They were either completely inept in their ability to do so, or they actually were led to the point, given the fake bomb, given the van by the FBI in essentially what was a sting operation. So I do question, how legitimate the threat actually is, just based on our history. And then the response
isn't that the rub, though? I mean, the rub is, how do you do that? If I identify you're that person and you're jihadi, their strategy right now is to rub shoulders with you and give you fake material and try to sucker 2 or 3 of your compatriots in so we can have one little arrest, and we call that a success. And so that becomes the challenge. Like, how far do we want this person to go before they actually do things? So I'm not trying to say what they're doing is a success. I really don't like the fact that we want to dupe them into, thinking that they're buying explosives and those kinds of things. But at the same time, we really do have some of these folks that are, they're in our borders. They actually, would do harm to us. And I think again, we really have to just reevaluate, I think, what our strategy needs to be. And that's where I said when I talk about Homeland Security and some of stuff, it's actually become laughable.
Oh, true. That's absolutely true, especially considering the fact that they're collecting so much data that they can't identify the actual threats.
Well, I think if ISIS were a little better at tactics, they would be doing this on the Canadian border with Washington rather than on the Mexican border with Texas, because it doesn't go too well for people trying to come in through Texas.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
They totally chose the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean there are more guns in Texas than the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll give ISIS a little bit of credit here. It's very widespread. I mean, some of the tweets that we have seen, is in Chicago. It's in New York. Most recently, I don't know if we talked about it last week on the show, was the girl. She's actually a female college student who's become a big supporter of ISIS and jihadis and was running a Twitter page and all that. I believe she was outside of Portland. So it is not the guy that in Texas and the border kind of makes some headlines, and we fall into that trap too, right? How do you balance not trying to be sensational but trying to be honest about where some of the threats are? But I don't think that they care so much about the geography. Many of these are the people that you're hearing about, right? They're the younger generation of people that are glomming onto this, that have been drawn to this, and can pose a threat over time. I mean, they're a threat today? Likely not. But some of the travel stuff doesn't make a lot of sense either. We're so quick to pull passports for Americans with some sort of weird, sketchy background where they weren't really investigated, but now we're going to stop them from traveling. Yet these folks can just go back and forth to Yemen like nobody's business, and that has always just been just shocking to me. Yemen has been a hotbed before 9/11. I mean, dating back to like the 1990 bombings, and yet we allow people to just go back and forth there like no problem, and then not evaluate if that could be a bad thing for our country. Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's a weird combination of political correctness and over scrutinization of U.S. citizens who are no threat whatsoever. And I think that's what it stems from is the fact that no one in especially in the administrative branch of the government wants to be seen as intolerant or insensitive or targeting a specific group, and so that's what you end up with.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I mean, that's kind of as an extension of a story that I just got this morning through my Twitter feed, was about the VA stripping down all of the religious icons or material from the VA's chapel. We want it to be neutral. It looks basically like a meeting room now. There's nothing in there. You're allowed to take things out of the, quote, the storage closet when you hold a service. So this is the direction this administration thinks is best to hold, a very neutral ground. They've been criticized from the right very much about, not using terms about Islamic terrorism or Muslim terrorists or extremists and those kinds of language. They speak in very high-level terms, very benign terminology. And, it's a tough balance, I'm sure. I do understand that, but at the same time, it's just incompetent.
Yeah, and it's turning a blind eye to reality is what it is. You know, you can't deal with a threat unless you're willing to name what the threat is. And again, like I said, I don't know what threat ISIS truly poses to us. I think it's extremely minimal at best, at least to the U.S. itself, U.S. borders. But call it what it is. Identify what it is.
Well, I think there's a legitimacy here. I think we could definitely agree that there's definitely more of a threat to our local communities, schools and malls, and a random shooting, those kinds of things, than there is a national security threat, like some sort of major catastrophe or major conspiracy or some sort of thing that aligns itself with what we think of war. So I think domestically that is a legitimate observation and a fair fact that is not really being embraced by the previous administration or this administration.
Right. And I think the best deterrence to it is an armed citizenry.
Absolutely.
As we've seen, in several cases.
And that's why we think it's silly that they would go to Texas.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe, look at Fort Hood, for example. I mean, here we have the men and women, it's a U.S. Army base, men and women, soldiers, and they're not even allowed at the time to carry personal firearms on base.
Right.
These are the people that we train to use firearms and send them everywhere to use firearms, and we don't allow them to have firearms to defend themselves in their own homes, essentially, if they're living on post. So it's duplicity that just makes absolutely no sense.
Colorado's movie theater was another one, right? James Holm travels 20 minutes, passes 3 other movie theaters to go to the one district where you're not allowed to have there's no carry at all in that district where the shooting took place.
Yeah, prime example. And, I don't know how we transitioned from ISIS to gun rights, but it is...
it works.
It works well. It's
smoother than
example.
Alex's transitions many times, no offense.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Well, hang on. In Alex's honor, I'd like to say, so what else, Brandon?
So, Brandon, and this is just an ongoing problem, so it must be my computer because nobody else is having this problem. I don't see anything new on the Global Dispatch. Like when I go to the Global Dispatch, it's still from January.
We have some sort of cached page issue with your computer.
Yeah, it's just been like this now. Now, if I go to the recent posts, it does update me to April. So the homepage is January. I've done it a few times. The homepage is January. The recently posted is April. But luckily, you did post a few stories in our show prep. So I do know that you did have a story up there about the president and the executive order about the police equipment.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Kind of a interesting dynamic that the entire press, of course, focused on the fact that we shouldn't be giving grenade launchers and tanks to police departments. And for those of us in communities that agree, we don't really think they need tanks and grenade launchers, and never did. Which, by the way, we also don't think that you need to give them to Egypt. So just saying. But what was really disturbing to me was the federal tracking and the newfound department that will be in charge of tracking what the police departments are doing, buying and selling and moving around. So I nicknamed him the Police Czar. And I think that is a more disturbing move by this executive order that really didn't get a lot of traction.
So essentially this department is the police, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
At a federal level, how bad and disturbing is that?
Well, I actually have to say that I do not mind law enforcement having tanks. I do not mind law enforcement having grenade launchers as long as everybody else can have them too.
Well,
Yes.
and I actually said this to a sheriff candidate one time who actually ended up... He was trying to, basically, we're having this discussion, and he was like, you don't understand the threat that we face. And I said, I have no problem with you having the necessary equipment to face the threat. I don't have a problem with you having an MRAP. I don't have a problem with you having automatic weapons. I don't have a problem with you having any of that equipment. But you have a problem with me having the equipment. And what you're not understanding is that I'm facing that threat before I call you.
Yes. Well, and in addition to that, it's a one-way street of trust. Essentially, when a sheriff says that or a police chief says that, he's saying, I don't trust the people, but the people should trust us. And that's a problem with me. You know, it can't be unilateral like that. It needs to be, law enforcement should be allowed to be as well armed as the people. And if you're talking about being able to combat a threat, that is how you combat a threat. You know, being as well armed as whatever your adversary is. So yeah, that's why I have a real problem with it. I'd prefer not to see police tanks rolling down my street. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I did see a Pinellas County MRAP, and it was the first time I had seen this
giant
vehicle. It's
massive.
Really
big. We've seen them here.
And I can tell you, it evoked a visceral response for me. I actually shouted a vulgarity at it. And the deputy inside gave me a quizzical look. I guess he couldn't hear what I was saying, but I'm sure he could read my lips. But yeah, it's frightening to me to know that kind of power is in the hands of people who I trust right now today, but I don't know that that'll always be the case.
Luckily for them, the armor is thick enough to defend from colorful metaphors.
Yes. So now it's interesting, Brandon. I wanted to ask you.
Concern that we're going to now hand the federal government some more oversight over a police force, and that just under the guise of the violence in the streets and all these different things that are completely irrelevant to what each of these circumstances really were, is now we're going to have another federal bureaucracy. Like I said, police czar just sums it up. That's what I'm going to go with.
Well, a lot of people are actually concerned that there is an underlying movement by the federal government to take more and more federal control over law enforcement. A national police force. Yeah, essentially moving towards that direction. Obviously, that would be something that would have to be a long-term goal. That's not something that they can do overnight without some sort of catastrophic event. But what are your thoughts on that? Well, no, I think it'd have to be much more significant than that. But what are your thoughts on that, Brandon? Do you think that we'll ever see a day in this country where we have no state and local law enforcement? We have a national police force?
Well, when you look at the crystal ball, that's kind of what we've talked about on the show many times, is we keep allowing the situation to move in that direction, right? We saw with the Dorner situation in California. They're using drones. They're searching vehicles with armed police one-to-one without any reason to do so. We saw them march through the Boston situation looking for one guy. I mean, it was, when they actually stopped doing that was when we found the one guy. And, we're doing it little by little. And for him to allow and move in this direction where it does kind of read like National Police Force, I don't know how you can not be concerned that is the direction we will head to, if not sooner than later.
Yeah. And that, coupled with the complete evisceration of the Fourth Amendment by the Supreme Court of late, though they had a couple rulings lately that have been pretty decent, like the one regarding search dogs for traffic stops. Mm-hmm. But the trend line, though there's some peaks and valleys, the trend line is towards we essentially have no right to be secure in our homes, persons, papers, and effects. And so that, coupled with a national police force, it's truly a terrifying thought.
Yeah, no.
We got to add in the NSA, add in the drone use, add in everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah. So what else is on the agenda? Man, now I'm kind of bummed out.
Well,
give me something better. Fun topics or something.
Well, there was one more thing that I know that you did want to mention, because last week we all got blindsided with Alex's question right at the end of you being on with us about why we thought the church was declining in numbers. And you had written an article that you posted on the Global Dispatch, and I know you wanted to bring that up again. So, I think we had a really good discussion about it last week, and I think we could. I know that some other things happened in between, so let's talk about that again.
Well, and I don't want to derail the train any more than maybe we already have with that too, because it was you're bringing we ended up in almost like theology instead of a political link. And I tried to stick to that very much so, trying to deal with government issues. And I quickly received some hate mail from a friend through Facebook who, basically was discussing, the hate speech I use and those kinds of things. And what I tried to post was at least a little bit of that information about how I didn't feel that was fair. But more importantly, I kind of wanted to defend my faith, what I really think is important, what I think really is ahead of the chicken and egg argument, which is kind of where we ended up with a lot of the discussion on the show. So you can check that out as well, answering the critics, talking about, why people leave churches and that kind of thing. But, it is interesting how even in our own little bubble, this little small community that we're working in and broadcasting through and reaching out to, how whatever it is I said stepped on somebody's toes to the point where they felt like that was the way to respond. And I was kind of shocked by that.
And I will say this because, and we've known each other a long time. We've had, these discussions on and off air for, for years now. And I think some of the comments that were made to you were not fair, because there are, and we do see them portrayed in the media and things like that. There are very hate-filled Christians out there who will say very mean things to one group or another, but you are not that person, and that you are very accepting of other people, and really do kind of try to take on the, Jesus was, loving of all people, but that doesn't excuse behavior. And I think that you went along more of those lines, and so I think that some of the comments that you had received personally were unfair to you as a person, although I know they were probably channeling that from other people that they've heard on the media and on the news and on TV. That's not your approach to things. You don't believe that the government should be involved in forcing people to do one thing or another. So I did want to make that clear that some of the comments that were made to you were unfair.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I kind of felt that way, but at the same time, you know what? I'm okay. I can take my lumps. I have thicker skin than that, so I'll move on and continue to fight the fight as I deem appropriate. But that's through a loving lens. I'm not out to just throw stones for the sake of throwing stones. You and I have talked a lot about, the cake baking situation. I don't think that you get to say no to this group, but then you're making cakes for X, Y, and Z, and you kind of have to be very careful with what you're going to say and your stance is going to be, because it can be very biased and bigoted if you're not careful, even if that was not intended to be so. And we're headed into tumultuous waters on a lot of levels, and it goes back to a lot of what, Danielle, you did say last week, because the government's involved. We keep allowing that to happen. We keep allowing them to define terminology for us. We're allowing the courts to make decisions that they're really not qualified to make. We're allowing them to give us benefits and take away our rights. It's just such a muddled mess, and a place that we're in 2015. And that was just another slice of that pie.
Yeah, and like I said, we disagree on somewhat on some of these issues. We agree on a lot of them, but saying that you weren't coming from a place of just love and really trying to do the right thing was not fair to you, because I know that is how you do things, and you're not like some of the way Christians are portrayed and how Christians act when they're on TV and things like that. So I think projecting the actions of others onto you wasn't fair.
And I got to say, Brandon, if you're not getting hate mail, you're doing it wrong. So,
well, I'm used to the hate mail. I don't know if I ever shared, my all-time favorite was spewer of bile and filth.
Ooh.
I wear it like a badge of honor.
Wow, that's a moniker, man.
I like that one.
Yeah. Can we put that on his tagline?
I want to steal that one from you. How do I earn that tag and take it from you? That's what I want.
I tell you what, man, you wouldn't know.
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. I actually agree with Danielle. I think it was unfair, the reaction that you got. Which I mean, obviously you and I have disagreed on this issue, but I don't think that it's fair for them to say that you're spewing hate speech, because that's not what you were doing. Right. And obviously you believe one way, and that's fine, but the way that you present those things is important. And you were not presenting this in a hateful or bigoted way. And it's not like you were calling people out and trying to be hateful and spiteful. So the people who were responding to you that way absolutely were. They were being hateful. They were being spiteful. And they should be the ones to get a little introspection and some self-awareness and be aware of what they're saying and pay more attention to what you're saying. And instead of responding with vitriol the way they did, respond with an intelligent argument and a proper counterpoint if they have a problem with it.
Well, they listened to last week's show, so they're listening now, and they can take some notes of that, and we can have some better open dialogue and things like that. And we disagree on a lot of things on this show. I mean, politically and a lot of these other topics, but I don't think we ever try to go at each other's throats and try to belittle each other or hurtful to each other. And I don't believe I should behave as an individual, let alone a Christian and follower of Christ. So, moving on, turning the page. I don't know. Adrian made a comment about feeling a little down and low now. Now he's really got to be at the bottom. Now we're gonna have to find something to cheer you up with. Man.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
send
Can we get to weird news or
a
something?
movie or something, man.
No movies. I don't want to talk about.
I did get to go
Transformers or
see
something.
Age of Ultron this week.
Oh, geez, here we go.
All right, hold on a second here. Hold on. I'm Alex. I'm back in studio here for a second. Anybody that thought that Brandon was coming from a place of hate, get off the bottle. Like, get off the pills. Get off of whatever you're on, because it was look. There can be disagreements on this stuff, but at least it was an honest conversation, and it wasn't one of any hate at all on Brandon's part. Like, for people that sent him mail that says that stuff, you need to really check yourself, because that's BS right there all day long, and we need to be able to discuss things. I love the discussions that we have with Brandon on there. I read some of the comments that were on there, and I wrote in my piece on the comment, and made a comment on the site that he wrote the article at. Again, it's a very weird situation on some of these things, but I recognize the need of religion in society. It's just a voluntary need, but it's there though. But the government has done everything they can to try to eliminate that, to try to make themselves the ones that we should be worshiping. That's what they've done, whether they want to admit that or not, and whether the statists want to admit that or not. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to replace people voluntarily either finding God or Buddha or Allah or whatever you need. They're trying to replace that, and it's happening to all of the religions. I mean, it's not just one. They're doing it with every one of them, trying to eliminate them.
Brandon, I keep trying to hand you a segue, but they keep picking the scabs. So, you got any weird news for us?
Greg saw Avengers. I'm happy for him. I hope he enjoyed it. But what did you want to get to, Adrian?
No, I want to hear some weird news or some
Wait.
upbeat
I want to
stuff.
know how
I
Greg.
don't want to hear about Avengers.
Well,
Too bad then.
Too bad.
Your mic's up.
I want to know what Greg. How did you feel about the Avengers movie?
I thought it was great. I was very impressed with it. I was a little disappointed because I missed part of the ending. I took my son. It was his first time going to see a movie in the movie theater, and he did really well. But then during the final sequence, he had to go to the bathroom twice. So I don't know how they defeated Ultron. I don't know what happened to the Hulk. So I loved the movie. I thought it was great. I was disappointed at the end, though, because I missed the ending, and I don't know kind of how everything got summed up at the end.
I haven't seen it, but let me sum it up for you. Monumental battle. Everybody lives.
I saw the battle. I just didn't see the ending of it, how it was all resolved.
And actually, there is a character that does not survive, just to stand corrected there.
Yeah.
I did see that.
All the good guys live.
Okay.
Yes,
No,
I did see.
No, one of the good guys.
I did see Quicksilver.
No, one of the
get
good
shot.
guys don't survive.
Yeah. So now, and because we did talk about this before, some people say that they don't like how they went into the backstory of some of the other characters. I thought that was the best part. I thought that was like the most interesting for me. What did you think about it?
I thought it was great. I think that it really showed why Hawkeye is an important element to the team and what he does bring to the table, because he does bring that human element. He does bring that, this is what we're doing all of this for, to that team. Captain America, he lost everybody. He's like 75 years removed from everyone he ever loved. Tony Stark is far too much of a narcissist to care about anybody else. Thor's from a completely different world. So these people are so removed from the human condition. Hawkeye really brings that home, and taking them to his home and seeing his wife and seeing his kids. And, I think it really did a lot to flesh out that character and make you understand why he's important.
Yeah, because I actually, before this one, was kind of like, why even bother with Hawkeye? Like, seriously, like, he's like why even have him? He's filler. I'm like, I can't wait to see him again.
But they make the best joke of the movie with that, right?
They did.
There's robots attacking us, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes any sense.
Exactly.
That was such a great aspect of the film that embodies exactly what many critics have said and some fans are thinking. It's like, okay, wait, you got Thor and Iron Man and Hulk, and this guy's got a bow and arrow, and they kind of make fun of that a little bit. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
It was. That was my favorite part of the movie. That was the best line.
The whole part. None of this makes sense.
It was an incredible movie. I'm definitely going to go see it again.
Yeah, I want to see it again.
Because I got to see that ending. I got to know what happened to Hulk. I got to know how they ultimately ended this battle.
So one last thing that's probably more for Greg than anyone else. Is anyone else a fan? Are you a fan of Mad Max?
I am a fan of Mad Max. I love the original
absolutely
movies.
love Fury Road. I don't give 5-star reviews, and definitely not from the first time I see a film, and I gave Fury Road a 5-star.
Really?
Well, it's got two really good things going for it. It's a Mad Max movie, and it has Charlize Theron, who is my number one celebrity crush. So it's got two
Gotta give
big
you that.
pluses.
She's hot.
Yeah, it's got two big pluses in its favor. Well, she wasn't hot in Monster either, but it was still a great movie. She's a great
she was
actress.
disturbing in Monster.
Yeah.
But I first of all, I just want to say that I do feel stupider for having been a part of this conversation. But you used to be on my side with the whole superhero movie things. What happened?
Well, I hadn't seen it.
He got to you.
No, I
he
hadn't-
got to
I
you.
hadn't
She
seen
watched
any of
He's
that.
changed you.
So I
You're
hadn't-
damaged goods now,
I
lady.
hadn't ever watched one ever before, but I'm a big fan of the Star Wars movies, and the reason why, and I always have, and I've said that, and the reason why is because I like how everything fit together. I like the story behind it. So then, once we started getting all of the other movies where everything kind of went together, then I can enjoy that. I don't like them. Like if it was only Iron Man or only Thor or something like that, I probably wouldn't ever watch them. But because the story's intertwined, that does pique my interest.
I have to admit here and drop the pomposity for a moment, if that's a word, and say that I did enjoy the Avengers movie. I haven't seen Age of Ultron. I will see it as soon as one of my pirate websites gets a downloaded copy with Korean subtitles. But I will not pay $10 to see it in the theaters.
$10? What
Yeah.
discount movie theater are you going to?
Is it more than that now? I don't go to the movies.
It was $20 for me and my son who had a child ticket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's just so wrong.
Hold on. What was that word that he said, by the way?
Pomposity.
He made it up.
That is a made-up word.
And it's rather pompous, too, which I like the kind of double entendre there.
That is the zenith of pompousness.
Ooh! The apogee is the word
now,
you're looking
so, you know, for us,
That was pompous.
we have a much larger family, so we have to take out a second mortgage to go to the movies.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. It's got to be a $100 trip to go see a movie.
And we took Patty too because it was Mother's Day weekend and she likes those movies. So yeah, no, it was. We were like, oh man, what bill aren't we paying this month?
Hey, I got to share some peer-to-peer stuff on tour with you, so you don't have to pay $100 to see these movies.
Yeah. Give me Mad Max, okay?
Right.
I can't afford to see Mad Max. I saw Age of Ultron.
All right. Well, Brandon, anything else before we let you go?
No, I got to run, but thanks for having me and fitting me in with so many different topics, and it's always a good time.
Hey, brother, great talking with you again, and hope I get the chance to again sometime real soon.
Sounds great. Talk hard.
All right,
Talk hard.
So we need to
Always
take
a
break
great
real
time with
quick.
Brandon.
I like having Brandon on.
Let me see if I can do some kind of ham-handed segue here. So what else? I guess we'll take a break. Can we take a break? Can we do that?
Greg's like, what
Can we
break?
take a break?
I'm
Do
not
we have a
prepared
commercial?
for this.
What are we doing?
Yes, we can take a break.
You're listening to the Liberty Underground Show on the 1787 Radio Network, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Join with libertarians from across the Sunshine State as we gather for the 2015 Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention, scheduled for June 5th through the 7th. The LPF State Convention will take place at the Quality Inn & Suites Conference Center in historic Newport Richey, Florida. Gary Johnson is the keynote speaker for the convention. Other speakers in attendance include Ben Swan, Adam Kokesh, Tony Stiles, and more. For more information, visit the website at lpf2015.com. Once again, the website address is lpf2015.com.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Now you're not wearing it.
Welcome back to the Liberty Underground Show, 1787 Network. You want to call the program, 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032.
That's how much we welcome callers to this show. We give out the number an hour and 47 minutes into the show.
Was that the first time giving out the call number?
You're using Internet Explorer on my computer? Don't be doing that.
Oh, don't use Internet Explorer.
What's wrong with that?
What the hell's wrong with you?
I use a good browser.
Chrome, baby. We're Chrome.
Yeah, and I hope you know that they're tracking everything you do.
Yeah,
And you think Microsoft's not?
Hold on.
Not as bad.
Okay, so if you let me make sure I get this straight here. So if I use Internet Explorer, somehow they're not tracking it, but Google, they are tracking it.
Yeah, Google does track a lot more than Microsoft does. Absolutely.
You know what? Honestly, I think you're full of it.
Actually, no. I can go back and see every website you've ever been to in Chrome. Everything you've ever clicked.
Oh.
They store it forever.
Forever?
Forever.
Man, do you know how much more space they have to have is in order to do that for everybody?
You got to show me how to do that because there's some porn sites I found that I can't rediscover.
He's going back. Normally people do that to try to eliminate the sites. Greg's doing it back because he needs to find out how to get back to it.
Yeah,
He wants that history.
Well, look, sheep porn is not the easiest thing to find. I'm just saying.
Really?
I
I don't have any experience with that, Alex.
Sure.
Go ahead and enlighten us.
Sure you don't, Greg. That's why you're not trying to go back.
It's big in Yemen.
It's big in Yemen. They're going to drill
Scotland.
They're going to bomb us for that one.
Hey, easy now.
Why do Scottish guys wear kilts? So the sheep won't hear their zipper.
Boy, he just had that waiting, didn't he, though?
I'll be sure to tell that one at the next Highland Games.
That'll go over really well.
Yeah.
We'll go over like a turd in a pool, baby, like a turd in a pool. So what were we going to talk about now, number two?
I have no idea. The show prep list is done. So
Yeah. Well, you know what it is there was a lot of stuff that did go on this week, though. They did, they got everything figured out up in Tallahassee as to when they're going to be doing the special session to figure out the budget. It's funny to watch that, though.
I'm glad they closed early so they could come back and figure this out.
I'm too distracted to have a conversation about that because Danielle has left her Facebook page open, and I am just so tempted.
Oh yeah,
So tempted.
Start posting, baby.
Well, if I didn't have a mortal fear of Danielle's wrath, I probably would. If it was anyone else but Danielle, I would probably
that
be
short-
trolling big time.
Did
right
she
now,
leave
but-
Twitter open as well? Because she
probably
needs
did.
some activity on Twitter.
I'm going to do the right off here.
Oh,
I-
why would you do that?
Because the temptation is too great, then I know I'll succumb if I leave it up too long. So,
All right then.
so what's going on with the budget?
Well, I will say this, and this looks like it's just come out because I didn't know about this beforehand. But the Feds say the needs of $1 billion in hospital funding. They're going to actually do $1 billion in hospital funding for Florida this year. They didn't necessarily promise any lip money or lip funding, but it looks like they're going to be doing $1 billion to maintain the stability while the system transitions. So it looks like the game of chicken that the state of Florida did win the game of chicken. You know, the congressional, the budget game of chicken. You guys know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah. We know what you're talking about. I'm just frustrated because no matter where the money comes from, it still came out of our pockets. You know.
Well, no, I'm not saying even like it's a positive thing. But and the this with it, and honestly, I'm glad you're here for this because when you ran for office for governor, dealing with Medicaid was actually something that was on your priority list.
Yeah.
And that you did figure out a way in order to save the billions of dollars that they were spending underneath your plan that you had. You wouldn't have needed to even deal with the lip funding.
No, not at all. In fact, we could have cut the Medicare budget easily by $3 billion year one without affecting anyone's services.
You could have added to the people that like Obamacare. The reason that they made Obamacare was to get all these other people that didn't have health care on the rolls.
Right.
The plan that you had, though, would have saved money and probably still been able to do that.
Well, yeah, theoretically it would, but the bottom line is just how the care is administered. You know, there's so much inefficiency and waste in that. And part of it is because we have a governor that's so entrenched in the healthcare industry. You know, he's still got his tendrils in HCA and all kinds of other healthcare services, and he's looking to dump as much federal and state money into those as possible.
You know, and look, and not to put you on the spot right off the bat with something like this, and I don't think I'm putting you on the spot because you know your stuff inside and out, backwards and forwards. Give the overview of the actual solution to the problem that we're looking at right here.
Well, one of the biggest problems we face in Medicaid is that people are forced the way the system is now because a lot of primary care providers don't provide it. So, you know, somebody has a cold, somebody has a minor sprain, something like that. Where do they go? They go to the ER. That's why you see the signs all over town. ER wait times, 8 minutes. It's not for the people who either pay for their own health care or have insurance with a, $500 deductible. They're only going to the emergency room if they have a serious emergency. But under Medicaid, people end up going to the emergency room for every single reason you would just normally go to the doctor. If we were to just contract, say, with CVS and their minute clinics to offer Medicaid services for non-emergency situations, we could save billions of dollars just doing that alone. Because somebody with a cold goes into the ER and the state gets a bill for $1,000. We could be getting a bill for $50 or $100. And it's simple solutions like that. And the government just always throws more and more of our money at the problem rather than addressing the root cause of it.
Well, and I want to make sure that I kind of not reiterate, but just make sure that you said billions with a B.
That's with
not
a B.
Millions
Yeah.
with an M. You said it would save billions of dollars, which I agree with you. I think it's accurate. And then again, the number used of 1,000 is actually kind of low. Is that some of those trips are bottoming out at $3,000?
Oh yeah, or $5,000,
or even $5,000.
Sure.
That by making this one simple thing, and you got to remember too. I know we talked during the campaign. You probably talked a little bit about this. I don't know if you were as involved in this as maybe we were talking about it on sometimes, but going with a direct care model, if you could incorporate what they're doing with Medicare, but instead of doing it the way they're currently doing it, incorporate a direct care model, you would have more doctors that would be, helping out patients at a lower cost. I mean, the direct care model is cheaper than the free clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the system is going to go that way so long as the federal government or the state government doesn't prohibit it. And with the direct care model, You're talking about the programs where people essentially pay a membership fee for their primary care physician, $50 a month or what have you, and then they just go to the doctor whenever they need to. And it's a great model. It's like a mini actual insurance program or membership program for your doctor. And I think that's a great way. And like I said, more and more doctors are going that way. But if it gets too popular, and it starts to compete with Obamacare, and it starts to compete with Medicaid and Medicare and things like that, I think you're going to see a move by governments to shut it down.
Well, I think what you're going to do is you're going to have the government, through spies, bring all the doctors that want to do that into one place that would also include some bikers, and then start a fight, and then as they come out, they're going to shoot them all.
That's the real purpose of Jade Helm.
I'm only halfway kidding with that one, but but no, and that's what I think is, a lot of times you see the meme out there is that, being a libertarian is like, being in a car full of drunk people, but nobody lets you drive.
Yeah. How true that is.
But honestly, this is one of only the latest of many instances where you look at and you see that, it's so incredibly frustrating to watch the argument that they're having over whether to, expand LIP, to not expand LIP, to expand Medicaid, to not expand Medicaid, when they're spending so much more money right now that you could eliminate all this stuff that you're talking about, save the taxpayers a bunch of money, and still cover those people. And again, our solution would be that you get rid of Medicaid and Medicare at the end of the day altogether, that we would get rid of these programs because we see that they're not useful. But even given their status parameters, we could still solve the problem.
Yeah, it's true. It's unbelievable. And I'm still waiting to see what the final budget number is for this special session, obviously. But it's going to be just insanity. I mean, we were at $77 billion last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit $80 billion this year. We're just spending way, way too much money. And the problem is that there's too many people in government that are the corporate welfare recipients. And, it's the lobbyists out there that are working for these hospitals trying to get that Medicaid and LIP money in their pockets. That's where the problem comes in. Part of the problem is the welfare state that we have, that so many people are dependent on government, but that also breeds the corporate welfare state that keep increasing these budgets and trying to ensure that there's more and more people dependent on government. It's a self-fulfilling expansion is essentially what happens. And unless you treat the root cause of the problem and break that cycle, it's going to bankrupt everyone sooner or later.
Well, yeah, and it's also, Florida is a great example of how this is not a Democrat problem. If you put Republicans in office, then they'll
Yeah.
then they'll fix it, because it is a Republican-controlled state. The governors are
Super
Republican.
majorities.
Yeah, and not only super majorities, but one of them's veto-proof. The other one is that the entire cabinet is made up of nothing but Republicans. It's all Republicans. When people go, well, we can't have the Democrats in, what would they do that's actually worse? I still fail to understand that.
Right.
I don't know why why people can't wrap their heads around, because they prove it only on the days that end in Y. They only prove it every day. And this budget session is another great example of this. Look, even with all the Republicans in charge, there's still a fear of a government shutdown.
Yeah. And under Republicans in office in Florida, with most of the time being Republican governors, most of the time being Republican legislators, our state budget has grown at an equivalent rate of the federal government.
Yes.
And that's Republican controlled. So it shows you that there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to spending your money.
Yeah.
And if there's a threat of a government shutdown with full Republican control, then that just shows even the Republicans don't agree with Republicans.
Well, yeah, the Medicaid thing is a big thing, is that the House is sticking to its guns and the Senate wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. But again, it's a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate that can't get along on this. And again, nobody's addressing the act. Nobody's trying to solve it.
Right.
They're all
Yeah.
just trying to grandstand on it. Both sides are. And You know, it is honestly at the end of the day they're going to expand it.
They're arguing over
And everybody knows that too. Everybody knows at the end of the day it's going to be expanded, and they're grandstanding. Just mostly, you'll find it's the ones that are facing tougher re-election challenges are the ones that are grandstanding, just so they can go back to their constituents and say, "I fought for you." And bottom line is, everybody knows that the game is just a shell game.
Yeah, on both sides. Yeah, whether Democrat or Republican, is that they're going to be, you know, because there's Republicans that are in office that are in what you would consider to be purple districts. And those districts do want the Medicaid expansion. As a matter of fact, the majority of the Floridians against our, what we would say, actually do want it. Which, again, they don't understand the problem. And that's also the problem with the politicians, is that if you're coming out against the Medicaid expansion, you should be able to explain how you would solve it, but they don't have the answer. They won't give you the answer for that.
Right.
So, but we'll go ahead. We'll take a break. We'll get back. Another full hour. Wiley's in studio. It's always a beautiful day when Wiley's in studio. But we'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Join with libertarians from across the Sunshine State as we gather for the 2015 Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention, scheduled for June 5th through the 7th. The LPF State Convention will take place at the Quality Inn & Suites Conference Center in historic Newport Richey, Florida. Gary Johnson is the keynote speaker for the convention. Other speakers in attendance include Ben Swan, Adam Kokesh, Tony Stiles, and more. For more information, visit the website at lpf2015.com. Once again, the website address is lpf2015.com.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know, Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street, just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Don't be mistaken. I believe in peace, but mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. I will not submit to authoritative man. I'm ready to die, but not for a lie. See the signs appear. It's gonna happen here.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, the Prime Minister of the Sinister, Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
Also in studios, Governor Adrian Wiley. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing groovy, man. How you doing?
Doing groovy, huh?
Doing groovy.
Groovy? Wow, groovy. I don't understand the groovy. What, groovy?
It's groovy.
It's groovy. So is that what you do when you're not running for office anymore? You
He's
just
like
get-
a potato chip.
I'm
He's
kicking
like,
back,
he's like a 70s. He's like a 70s hippie.
I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, you
chill, got a little scruff on
You-
my face.
You got a Buffett
know.
concert you're going to tonight?
And maybe.
I actually would like to go to a Buffett concert
Isn't
tonight.
Billy
I lo-
Idol tonight or
I
something?
love
like
that little commie.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you upset sometimes too? Is that like people as artists that you really, really like as artists, that when they actually are speaking about other issues, that they prove themselves to be like little commies?
Yeah, I managed to push it out of my mind though.
Like you
know?
try the best that you can to eliminate that you even heard that stuff and just focus on like their music.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of politics while I'm listening to Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season, so I just put it aside.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Buffett for his political views. So whatever his political views are relevant to me.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I guess
Good way of
he
looking
puts
at
it
it.
out front in the like in the shows and stuff. He still brings some stuff up.
But I can tell you, going the other way though, if it's someone who I agree with politically, I tend to like them even more because of it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things, and we haven't really talked about this a whole lot on the show, but with Adrian here, I think it is a good thing to kind of bring up because I know that Adrian's probably done a lot more looking into this than we have, and that's Jade Helm.
Now, what would lead you to believe I've done more looking into it than you?
Because you've looked into it at all.
Yeah. Well, I have to go with Greg on that one. Yeah, that's pretty much the answer there.
Fortunately, you're correct in that. So
Well, I know I'm correct. So.
I do tend to research those sort of things.
Oh, but before I do that, if you want to call the program, 1-800-525-4032. Refresh Telecom, 1-800-525-4032. But go ahead, Adrian. Let's have a little bit of the Jade Helm kind of discussion.
Well, let's hang on before we get into that. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. What do you think? You've seen enough out there to form some kind of opinion. What's your feeling on it?
All right. I think that the Jade Helm action or the Jade Helm operation that they're doing is a way to condition the troops into dealing in a urban area, combat operations within an urban area. And, it's not a takeover of the entire country. It's just it's a military operation. Yeah, I believe it is used. And I believe that it is used to train the military into how to deal with an enemy in an urban environment. And in order to say that, though, is that there's not going to be many urban environments that our military is going to be going into unless you're doing it here.
Pretty astute observation, I'd say. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Along the same lines, I agree that it is conditioning for the military, not only for urban activity, but for urban activity in the United States, and if necessary against Americans. But I believe it's also conditioning for the American citizens to be prepared and for military activity to go on within the United States. And for them to not be surprised when it happens and just kind of be prepared for it. And
To normalize it.
to normalize it,
Yeah.
to condition people to expect it.
Another great observation there. But I've done a lot of research into this. And for those of you who don't know, Jade Helm 15 is a military exercise that's going to be going on in multiple states. Using a variety of special operations units from various branches. It's It's set up throughout most of the Southwest and has components in Florida as well. The interesting thing about this is they've set Texas as hostile territory, and one other state as well. Yeah,
They're not wrong.
yeah, in a good way. So what they've done is they've set up a scenario where the states are kind of like regions in a conflict, and some of the regions are supportive, some are neutral, some are leaning hostile, leaning friendly. But Texas and I believe, is it Colorado, is the other hostile territory? Those are designated as hostile territory. Now, Florida is essentially Central Command for it's U.S. SOCOM for Special Operations Command. So Tampa is really the hub. Now, there is so much chatter on the internet. I'm deluged with it on a daily basis of people who believe that this is the end. On starting in June, they're going to come kicking indoors and rounding up people who have red stickers on their mailbox. Let me tell you, that ain't it. This isn't the day where the government comes around and takes up political dissidents and takes them to FEMA camps. That's something to always be concerned about because it's always a possibility, but it ain't happening today. But having said that, this is a kind of dangerous precedent. This is something that, and Alex being a Marine, me being a former soldier, we never trained in actual civilian environments. If we wanted to do, training in urban environments, I know the Army, I don't know about the Marine Corps, but the Army had several facilities, mock cities, on military bases that we would train in. This is something completely different. This violates the spirit of posse comitatus, and it is exactly what you guys were saying. It is conditioning. It's conditioning both the troops to potentially, break their oath to defend the Constitution by engaging in potentially unconstitutional activities, and to condition the public to have troops in the street.
Well, yeah, because there's nothing wrong with like AP Hill, Virginia, or Bragg,
Right.
or 29 Palms,
Sure.
Or any of those locations. I mean, they do provide with all of the things you would need if you were looking to do urban warfare. All that stuff it's still active. It's still there. I mean, look, I was on Lejeune, and we even had like a smaller area that would still kind of suffice for some of that stuff in Lejeune.
Right.
So, and we would actually do training on some of the Army bases because they don't give the Marine Corps nearly as much money as they give the Army, nor do we have as many bases as the Army has.
Right.
So we would go to Army bases and we would do training in those areas. And I remember doing urban training in the Army or at AP Hill and at Bragg,
right?
Specifically. And now when we went out to CAX, it was to 29 Palms, which is out in California. That one was more of a desert kind of setting. So we were doing more desert warfare. So if you're thinking about training, about sending troops over like to Iraq or over there, you would do some of your training in the desert area because you'd have to get acclimatized to how the desert actually operates.
Right.
But when we went overseas, though, because I actually did do some overseas stuff. When we did overseas stuff, we would be out in the civilian area. Matter of fact, when I did cold weather training, I did it in Belgium, surprisingly enough. Great waffles, by the way, and they literally do have all
chocolate too.
Like I'm not kidding around.
And
Like
beer.
they have waffles everywhere. Like we would be doing we were doing like a joint field operation, and we were going down this street, and it was like a country kind of street or whatever. And the people that were living there loved Americans. They really actually did, and they brought out waffles.
Wow.
And we ate them, and they were like the best. They were the best waffles ever. But you got to remember, like it was probably a day and a half or 2 days into a field op.
Yeah, you've been eating MREs.
Yeah. Somebody brings you out a waffle, I don't care.
It's the best cracker I ever had. Is this a Ritz?
So, but I'm sorry, I digress. Go ahead, though, Adrian.
Well, no, that's really the point. It's if you're worried about being dragged out of your house at 3 a.m., that's not going to happen. But
Yet.
yeah, and yet that's a good qualifier. Yet it's not going to happen this year. But one of the interesting angles on this is, going towards the conditioning. They're also doing a lot of drills with helicopters and civilian extractions. They recently did one in Fort Lauderdale, middle of the night, flew in a bunch of helicopters, brought in a bunch of troops in white vans, and then rounded up a bunch of volunteer civilians, a lot of local dignitaries and things like that were just having fun being rounded up and packed into vans as civilians.
I guess
there's no point to that.
Their paintball group canceled or something.
Yeah. Hold on. I got to tell you, man, like I'm always looking for a fun time on a Saturday night, and I'm kind of open to a lot of different things. But participating in a drill in which I'm rounded up by the military, like that does not make like the top 10.
No, not even close.
Like not even close. I would rather have dental surgery on a Saturday night before I do that.
But the bigger question is, obviously they're preparing. The military trains for likely scenarios. They game plan just about everything you can imagine. The Department of Defense has a game plan for, what happens if 15-foot tall aliens, start coming around and shooting laser beams out of their eyeballs. So they have a game plan for all of that. But when they do major training operations like this, they are training for a scenario that they believe is likely. That's where we have to question, what is that likely scenario? Are they worried about some sort of civil unrest? Are they worried that we're going to have some natural disaster? I mean, we've got magma chambers under the Yellowstone supervolcano. Maybe they're preparing for the fallout, if you will, of a massive volcanic eruption that disrupts life here in America. We don't know the answer to that, but it's something to be very concerned about. But I just want everyone to, especially the people who think this is literally the end of the world, it's not that. Now, another interesting component of this is Walmart closings. Did you guys see the Walmart closings?
We saw.
We did see the Walmart closing. One thing I do want to correct you on, just so you know, it's laser. You have to use
lasers.
The hands. You have to use the hands if you're going to say laser.
Freaking sharks with lasers.
Lasers. Now, hold on. Before you get to the Walmart closings, though, there's another question I want to ask you, though.
Sure.
You mentioned that they're also they're also doing this for civil unrest.
Right.
I want to bring in Baltimore into this and to see how you think that plays, because the woman that was the mayor in Baltimore was also the head of one of the federal law enforcement task force, or was part of the law enforcement task force thing, and that she did, again, this was all admitted, she did stand the police down to allow those people to riot so they could come back in and basically do a takeover at that point instead of calming things down ahead of time. Where do you think that plays into not necessarily Jade Helm, but the intent of Jade Helm?
Well, I have to say, a lot of people say that things like Baltimore are a false flag. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think that was probably more likely an organic, situation of civil unrest. But what the government tends to do is be very opportunistic about things like that. They capitalize on it.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Exactly. They use this as an opportunity to say, see, this is why we need MRAPs rolling down our streets. This is why we need grenade launchers. This is why we need federal intervention. And this is why we need to train our troops to march through the streets of U.S. cities.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I blowing it completely out of proportion. We should put a stop to it. We should fight this. We should talk to every military person that we know and say, hey, you're really overstepping, posse comitatus. You're, standing on the line of whether or not you're violating your oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. But by the same token, when I see Alex Jones showing a National Guard unit doing PT, jogging through the streets of some city, small town in California, with road guards in reflective vests saying, see, this is an invasion.
Exactly.
There's sensationalism. So you've got the government using
fear
this.
Porn.
It's fear porn. Exactly. You've got the government using actual crisis scenarios to justify the buildup. And then you've got the fear porn pushers saying, well, hey, look at this, here's a convoy of Humvees on a train going across the country. it's the end of the world. They're coming to get us. Well, no, they manufacture these things. They move them between military bases. There's convoys of military vehicles all the time.
I don't know about you, but I see them all the time in Pinellas because of all the military contractors that we have in Pinellas County.
Right.
They are all over the place all the time. And I used to work there on Bryan Dairy Road where there's several of those military contractors. It was a daily thing to see a truck going along with 2 MRAPs on the back or a big old cannon or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, not to
it was
mention
it was
we have-
daily.
We have National Guard units in Pinellas County. I think
Yeah,
I'm
here-
probably going to screw this up, but I think it's the 503rd or the 513th. Anyway.
We have CENTCOM here. Here in Tampa, we have Central Command.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's for all of the Middle East and Special Forces. So when you see those things, don't think that that's the end of the world, but be vigilant about this because this does actually frighten me. They're preparing for something. We don't know what it is. Oh, and I wanted to get to the Walmart closings.
Well, hold on. See,
Go ahead.
one point I wanted to make is most of our military already has field experience in urban warfare in places like Fallujah.
Right.
They were going through urban areas, kicking down doors and dragging people out of their homes.
Yeah.
They don't need just urban warfare experience. They have urban warfare experience. They need U.S. urban warfare training. That's what they need. They need the training here.
And they need to condition the people to accept it.
The people and the military.
Yeah.
I can't believe I got to defend this. Damn it. The one thing that you do have to remember when it comes to the training is, like, when did Fallujah happen? When was that? 05? 03?
Right. Yeah, I
probably
know. I know.
05.
where
So,
you're
so you're
going.
saying
Probably
because new
05.
guys are coming in,
No. It's you got to look at it is most people when they go into the military go in with a 4-year term.
right?
Now the rate off of that is not high. It's
Right.
pretty low. Most people do
Right.
4.
Most people get out as soon as
Most
they
people
can.
do 4 and get out for whatever reason. I mean, a lot of people just do their 4 and they get out. So you constantly have new people coming in, which means you constantly have to keep these things going. But you're right; they're conditioning for it. You know, to have cities that look like America. I mean, and I don't think we're going to be taking over Europe anytime soon.
Right.
You know, there's not another world war that we're going to have over in Europe, and the rest of the countries that we would have them look way more third world than way more first world.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you need to train troops for fighting in Ramadi or Fallujah or something like that, go out to Fort Bliss, Texas, in El Paso, or McGregor Range in New Mexico, where we have huge facilities, and build a mock-up of Ramadi or Fallujah or some town in Yemen. We could probably do it if the military started buying their hammers at Home Depot. We'd have more than enough money to build that.
All right, but let's get to the Walmart part of it, though, because I know I do want to hear this part of it. Because initially I was concerned, then I stopped being concerned. So I'm curious as to where you're at on the Walmart part right now.
I have been researching this thoroughly and spent a lot of time looking into it, and there does appear to be a connection. Absolutely, between the Walmart closings and some sort of government operation. Now, I've seen all kinds of stories that there's tunnels crisscrossing the U.S. and they go into Walmarts. And look, I haven't seen any solid evidence about that, but the one thing I can tell you with absolute certainty is this is not a business decision on Walmart's part. Now, Walmart does absolutely have contracts with the Department of Homeland Security, with FEMA, to act as distribution points in the event of emergency. Their SOP is they close, they act, they allow FEMA access to their distribution channels, because if you think about it, Walmart has a better distribution system than anybody else in America. They can move goods, they can move food, they can move water, and they can get it done. These closings, with plumbing being the problem, look, if a Walmart store was having such significant plumbing issues that they needed to close their doors, I can guarantee you they would pay whatever it takes to get the problem fixed, probably overnight. Or in worst case scenario, they're closed for one day. They never close for 6 months, and there's no plumbing going on at any of these stores. What is happening, though, is military vehicles are being parked nearby. Containers.
Hold on, now when you say nearby, what do you mean by nearby?
Like some on Walmart property, some in fields nearby, staging areas nearby. It's not a huge number yet, but there's a handful of Humvees and other types of vehicles nearby. Also, they're moving in a huge number of container cargo containers,
Quadcons and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Shipping containers.
Yeah, and we're seeing that at all 4 of the Walmarts, including the one in Bradenton. Brandon, rather.
Now, let me ask you a question. And I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate here, but if you were going to be closing down a Walmart, there were certain items in that Walmart that were had expiration dates that you'd have to get rid of right away. But there's certain ones that don't have an expiration date that you would have to move to another location if you were legitimately closing this Walmart down. Wouldn't the shipping containers kind of be in concert with that?
The interesting thing is they're not moving the supplies out. At least I've seen no evidence of that. I've seen no reports of them moving the non-perishable goods out of the store. When they made the decision to close these stores, these 4 stores, all with the excuse of plumbing problems, they immediately did a 50% off sale on all perishable items, and then they closed the store that night. And then there was no activity. There's been very little activity at all those stores. Some of them have kept the pharmacies open, but they barricaded off the rest of the store so you can't even see what's happening back there. Now Walmart has changed their tune. They said, well, it wasn't really just plumbing. We're going to remodel all these stores. So nobody bought their initial excuse, so they're having to back off of it. But my belief is that the contract they have with FEMA has kicked in, and these 4 locations and possibly more locations will be closing soon. Whether it's directly related to Jade Helm, I do not know, but it is some type of government operation, either a planning run or something for some type of a event where they feel that the normal distribution channels for goods and services in America are going to be disrupted.
So you're saying that the plumbing problem is they're feeding us a bunch of crap?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There is no plumbing problem at these stores.
Well, look, and here's the other part about this. And people can go, well, this is just a wild conspiracy theory. You can't look past the fact that Walmart came out with one story and then came out with another story afterwards.
Right.
Like, this sounds
and
fishy.
never pulled any permits in any of the locations for any plumbing work.
Yeah.
And normally if Walmart has an issue, they pull the permits weeks or months in advance before they need to work. Hillsborough County, where the Brandon Walmart is located, says that we've never been approached for permits. That's an issue.
Yeah. I don't understand. There's no trust anymore with these government agencies and with these big corporations. And it's earned lack of trust because they're the ones that have done these things. So when people go, well, this is just some kind of wild conspiracy theory, like, you know what? It's not that wild. Well, their explanations are pretty wild as well.
Hang on a second. There are a lot of wild conspiracy theories attached to it, but I can tell you everything that I've said so far is just plain fact.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and how you choose to look at it after that, that's I guess that's your opinion, but it needs to be discussed and it needs to be looked at. And like I said, the Walmart thing just seemed to be like, well, none of it made any sense.
Right.
Unless it was something nefarious.
Well, and consider that Walmart closing these stores, they were all profitable stores. They're losing a couple of $100 million by closing these 4 stores. They were all supercenters, all doing, on average, $100 million a year each. So 6 months, say $50 million average, they're losing $200 million by closing these stores. Walmart doesn't do things like that unless they're being compensated in some other way. And I think they are being compensated by FEMA in this case. Why is what I don't know. And the contracts we know of, the contracts have long been in place.
Yeah. And that's what I've said about this from the beginning. This smells more like government inefficiency than Walmart's efficiency.
Yeah, Walmart would never do this.
Yeah, Walmart is they are a very profitable, very successful company,
very savvy,
for a reason.
Yeah.
They don't make dumb moves, and if they do, they make up for it real fast and learn from it immediately. And this is the kind of dumb moves that they would have learned from a long time ago.
Right.
But it reeks of the kind of dumb moves that government makes on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to say, well, there's some grand conspiracy here, but it smells like government to me and not Walmart.
And then the question becomes why? And that's what I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, and neither do I. Now, the one thing I did want to, I wanted to reiterate a little bit of what you said. When it comes to logistical planning, Walmart is the best in the world. There is nobody that's better than them. I mean, all the stuff is automated. Is you can pull something off of the shelf, go and buy it, and it's reordered, and no other human was involved in that. I've watched a couple of the specials actually on Walmart, surprisingly enough, and they are like the bomb at logistics. I mean, which look, if you were worried about natural disasters and how to go into a place and give those people the supplies that they would need in order to stop anybody from dying, you probably want to look at Walmart as to how to do something like that.
Walmart is better at it than the UN, than the Red Cross, than the U.S. military combined.
Yeah. No, they're the bomb at it. So. And you're right. The why we don't know. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah. What are they planning for? What do they know that we don't know? And the question then has to be, are they preparing to protect us from some event that they're not telling us about? Or are they preparing to subjugate us in some way? And I can't say with certainty either way.
You ever seen Deep Impact?
Yeah, as a matter of fact. Yeah, is the asteroid coming? Is Yellowstone about to blow? Are the little green men coming to get us? I don't know. But somebody does probably, and they're at least preparing for that contingency.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I'm at a loss on these things. So,
yeah.
All right, well, look, let's take a break real quick. When we get back, more exciting stuff. Let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit further on the 1787 Radio Network.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Join with libertarians from across the Sunshine State as we gather for the 2015 Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention, scheduled for June 5th through the 7th. The LPF State Convention will take place at the Quality Inn and Suites Conference Center in historic Newport Richey, Florida. Gary Johnson is the keynote speaker for the convention. Other speakers in attendance include Ben Swan, Adam Kokesh, Tony Stiles, and more. For more information, visit the website at lpf2015.com. Once again, the website address is lpf2015.com.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground 1787 Radio Network. All right.
If you'd like to call the program.
Well, yeah, if you want to call the program, 1-800-525-4032. But if you ain't called now, I don't want to hear from you.
No, call the program. We got so little show prep.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you
Well,
know.
no. Well, this next one will take all the rest of the show.
Probably will.
The next one we want to address is something that is out there. We've known about this for a while. I think we've actually discussed it on the show, but it does bear... it does need to be talked about again because these people aren't stopping, and that's called the Article 5 people, the Convention of States people, was started by
the CON-Con.
The CON-Con.
We're going to Comic-Con?
Yeah.
No,
San Diego Comic-Con?
You're going to have to wait a little bit on your furries fetish. It's not going to get...
Your furries fetish, by the way.
Well, okay.
These guys have a whole different fetish.
Wasn't that somewhere in your sheep porn there, Greg?
I like stormtrooper porn.
Wait a second. Call me naive, but is there such a thing?
What is it? Rule 37? If it exists, there's porn of it.
So what we're talking about is a convention of the states, and there's a bunch of grouping of people. It started with Levin, definitely on the neocon side that is pushing this. Not only the neocon side, but it's also people like George Soros are also pushing for the CON-Con. And this is going to be a convention of states that they're going to go out and, we're going to have a constitutional convention, and we're going to go change specific things in there. But I know that Adrian also has done a ton of research on this. So can you kind of explain for us their premise and why their premise is just completely flawed?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people that are supporting the Constitutional Convention, their heart's in the right place. But what's happening right now is there's an organization called the Convention of States Project. And they are making the rounds, spending a lot of money, building a team, doing community organizing, things like that, to support this Constitutional Convention. And it's bad news, guys. And, initially as I was watching these, and I've actually, done point-counterpoint with some of the organizers of the Convention of States Project. What I'm finding now, though, is something that troubles me. They're lying. They're lying about what it is to the people that they're trying to sell this to.
What's their thing on it though? Like what are they trying to? What's their sales pitch?
What's
on
their
this?
official story?
Well, here's the thing. The first thing you have to understand is Article 5 of the United States Constitution. And what that says is that essentially sets up the process by which the Constitution can be amended. The Constitution was written actually out of a constitutional convention. At the time, it wasn't called a constitutional convention because it was called the Philadelphia Convention. Our founders just got together to amend the Articles of Confederation. Once they convened, though, they had the authority to do pretty much what they wanted, and they went ahead and scrapped the Articles of Confederation and wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that's, was ratified by the states later. And in the Constitution, of course, they put Article 5, which gave two possible ways to amend the Constitution. One is Congress submits an amendment to the states, and the states, if ratify it, and it becomes an amendment. The other way is through a constitutional convention. Now, it has many names, but it's all the same thing. Convention of States, Constitutional Convention, Article 5 Convention. You have to understand, no matter what you hear, it's all the same thing. Now, Article 5 says that once convened, this convention is valid to all intents and purposes. There's only one limitation of power on the convention, and that is they cannot take away any state's representation in the Senate. Short of that, they have absolutely no limitations. They did have some limitations up till the year 1808, but obviously we're way past that now. So, what the Convention of States Project is saying, hey, look, our leaders need their power reined in. They want term limits. Good idea. I think term limits for Congress is a good idea. They want a balanced budget amendment. Great idea. I think we should have balanced budgets. The problem is this. What they're telling people is that when the states petition the federal government for a Article 5 convention, that the delegates will be limited to whatever the states want them to do. That is absolutely false. If we have a constitutional convention, it is quite possible that we end up with the Bill of Rights being repealed. It's quite possible that states like California or New York or Massachusetts say, well, food, clothing, and shelter should be a universal human right, and they should be provided to everyone by the government, making us a socialist country. There's all kinds of very, very bad things that can happen. So once that happens, then it goes to the states for ratification. Now, a lot of people say, well, even if that does happen, the states will never ratify something like that. But keep in mind, when the federal government dangles enough money in front of the states will vote for anything. That's how we got Common Core. That's how we got Real ID. That's how everything gets done. So I really fear that an Article 5 convention would essentially be the end. It would be the last nail in the coffin for our Constitution. But the problem is the Convention of States Project are saying that the power of the delegates, the power of the convention is limited in scope, and it absolutely is not. And they're spending a lot of money right now to put out that disinformation. That makes me question their motives.
Well, here's my problem ultimately with what they're talking about with the Convention of the States. And part of it has to do with the process in which these delegates would be selected to go up there anyway. Is that the delegates would be selected, if I'm not mistaken, by the state house and the state senate of the individual states. Like each state would, their state house and their state senate would get together. Then they would say, well, we're going to select these people to go up there. At a time frame in which corruption and paying off of politicians is, not only is it at its fever pitch, it's completely institutionalized to where it's totally legal to do. I mean, the laundering of money, the legal laundering of money that is happening in Tallahassee, for instance, is amazing. I mean, it's amazing how much money is able to be done there. I don't understand how we think we could get honest representation from the state of Florida of the people that would represent us. In addition to that, you're right about the money thing, is that the federal government is classic. This is their modus operandi of doing this. So the other part that you said was absolutely true. And when I get to I've had arguments with some of these people from time to time. And at the end of the day, arguments with a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they'll say is basically that they trust the Republicans to get it done.
Right.
I reject your premise.
Yeah, they're not paying attention. Well, let me just say to your one point, we don't know exactly how the delegates will be chosen. There has, since the ratification of the Constitution, there has never been a constitutional convention in this country. Amendments 11 through 27 were all passed by the first of two methods, which is Congress submitting the amendment. Having said that, my assumption would be that it would be up to the state legislators to determine who the delegates would be. And we know that means that we're going to be getting the same bad guys that are up there screwing up our state, or the same people that are paying them money to make bad decisions and screw up our state as delegates. We're not going to have, Madison. We're not going to have Washington. We're not going to have Adams. We're going to have, Cochran and guys like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dudes that we already have seen that we've done shows about that have shown how these guys are bought and paid for now.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what's going to change? What's going to change?
Yeah. Do you want Rick Scott rewriting your U.S. Constitution?
Yeah, look, I don't want him rewriting the rules for dog catcher.
Right.
You know? I don't want him in any of those things. Another part of this, and we see this before, is that initially the Convention of States people were very much against nullification. They basically opposed nullification. They said it's not the way to do it. And later on, though, after they were catching so much backlash, then they started embracing nullification, but saying, well, that's one way of doing it of all the ways. And if you ever push back on them, like we've pushed back on them a couple times, the response you get back is, well, then we're just lost. Like, it's almost like if we're not going to do this, then throw up our hands, and there's no other way to fix this thing. And what I'm coining the Convention of States, I have a coined term that I'm using now, and it's called a Get Liberty Quick scheme. Because that's exactly what it is. It is a way to take well-meaning people who are legitimately trying to fix things in this country that don't have maybe the proper understanding or are believing the people that are coming in there because these people have gotten, what do you call that when you have, you've earned respect from something before, like
Street cred.
Street cred. They got street cred, but
There
not from this though. They didn't get their cred from this. They got their cred from other things.
Right.
But those people weren't necessarily honest players, and they were for sale. So they got sold a bill of goods, or they participated in this, and then they come out to the groups as, hey, this is a great idea. We're doing this, and I don't think that they're even putting all their cards on the table to show that they're actually being paid to do this.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like the AFP scenario.
Yeah, very much like the AFP scenario.
Yeah, they're now on the payroll, so they're doing whatever their bosses tell them to do. Now, some of the people I have spoken with are just, they don't know, they don't understand the Constitution. They haven't really, I'm sure they've had to read Article 5 to the Constitution, but they don't understand it. And the pitch that I'm hearing that, oh, no, this is not a constitutional convention. This is an Article 5 convention. That's totally different. No,
exactly
there's
what
no
Article 5
difference. There's only, right.
What are you saying?
Basically, what they did is they put another name on it. They call it either the Convention of States or the Constitutional Convention or an Article 5 convention. No matter what they call it, it's the same thing. There is no difference, and there is no limitation to the convention's power if they wanted to, as happened with the drafting of our Constitution, as happened to the Articles of Confederation in 1787. They could scratch the Constitution and create the Communist Manifesto, and as long as we still had a Senate where states had representation, it would be valid.
Yeah, and again, it really comes down to here's two questions you want to ask yourself whenever you see these guys around, or two questions that you want to ask these guys. The first one is, and this is the question. This is the first question: is it possible? And this is a yes or no one, so you got to make them answer yes or no. Is it possible to suspend the rules to go beyond the scope that they were initially brought together for?
It absolutely is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without question.
But that's the question you want to ask these
And
guys.
technically, they wouldn't even have to suspend the rules because Article 5 says it shall be valid to all intents and purposes. It's unqualified with the exception of the Senate. All intents and purposes. It means they can do whatever they want.
But here's the thing: even if you went with their premise,
Right.
that even let's give them, and again, why give them the benefit of the doubt? But even if you were, that's the question that you want to ask them,
Yep.
and their answer will be an attack on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They won't answer the question. They're
I've
going
never
to
had
attack
a legitimate answer to either of those questions from anyone in the Convention
No.
of States
What was the
process.
second question?
Oh, the second
For
question.
either of them?
Oh, no, here's the second
Well,
question.
the first one is how do you explain the all intents and purposes clause?
Okay.
They can't. And then the second one is even if what you're saying is true, what about suspending the rules with a 2/3 majority? And they can't address that either.
And here's the third question, and this is I would say this one is the gotcha one. This is a gotcha question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust the politicians?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's who's making the rules. The politicians are. Do you trust them? If the answer is yes, then you don't have problems anyway then.
Yeah.
You know, do you trust your state house in order to make this decision? Simple question. And if they answer yes, and then I would ask them, are you actually paying attention to what the state house is doing?
If you trust them, then why do you need this convention?
That's why they originally went against nullification, because, if you trust the politicians, just ask them to nullify. And it didn't fit with their mantra. Now, again, for the longest time, I gave these guys the benefit of the doubt. I thought they were just misguided, well-meaning, well-intentioned, things like that. But what I'm seeing now goes far beyond that. And now we need to find out who's funding this. Because somebody is funding it big. And whoever that is has ulterior motives.
It's probably AFP, because they are the innovators of the Get Liberty Quick schemes.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one's an AFP thing or not. I wouldn't want to. We have zero proof of that.
Right. I haven't started going
guessing
through the documents yet,
Yeah,
but I'm
zero
thinking
proof of
about
that.
it.
I'm just guessing by the
Well, no,
kind of
when
what we're seeing.
Well, yeah,
here.
when you looked up Heartland Institute, all of a sudden you got back to the Cokes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you were like, how the hell did this happen?
Right.
But again, you got back to the Cokes.
And we determined exactly why that the Heartland Institute was being funded by groups who want to keep the utility monopoly status quo. And that's why they were coming out against free market alternative energy.
You know what's funny is that the Orlando station did an interview with the guy that's the head of AFP, and they posted the raw footage. And the gentleman said to him, he asked him the question actually about, what about, you guys are all about limited government and about deregulation and all these other things. How are you justifying opposition to a constitutional amendment that would actually deregulate, for all intents and purposes, would deregulate the government-sponsored monopoly?
The energy
right
sector,
now?
yeah.
And dude couldn't really answer that question. I mean, he really was like, "Well, that's a good question," and looked down and was like, oh, "I got to get back to my talking points here. Hang on, how do I do this?" And then got back, and he got back to his. Don't get me wrong, he got back to his talking points on it, but
he's paid well to do that.
Well,
that's
he
why
was
they
paid
pay.
well to do that.
Yeah.
But this is the problem that we're having, though, and this is with the Convention of States. They're not able to answer the simplest of questions with anything other than to attack the person that is asking the question.
Yeah.
And to watch it, though, and like I watched the first time I saw these guys, and I don't think you were with me that day. We were in the North Central Florida Tea Party group up there, and they came in and was doing like a whole kind of the Tea Party thing. You were there at the end. You may not have got there for the Convention of States things. It was when you were running.
Okay.
Because they had the Concerned Veterans of America people there with the guy that talked about how the CIA was so awesome, which made me question that group as well. But they were in there, and the John Birch Society, who was against this from day one,
Right.
was there, and guy was sitting at the table, and dude didn't say anything. Like, he wasn't part of it. He was just like a vendor at the table. And that dude got on stage and just was blasting the John Birch Society, was blasting them.
Yeah.
And it was almost like instant. And this is one of the tactics that are used in a lot of these groups, by the way. Adrian you didn't fall victim. Well, yeah, you did fall victim to it. You fell victim to it in Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that...
With the leader of Heartland on the solar initiative.
Which is a contrived...
That guy outright lied. He approached me, we had a conversation, and then he stood up on stage and lied about our conversation.
Well, hold on. You're actually not... It's worse than what you're saying.
Yeah.
You were in a spot in that area that you had to go way out of your way to have a conversation with you. And that the dude did that. He went way out of his way, targeted you because he knew who you were, and then got into an argument with you about it, and then used you as a prop when he was in there talking about how he's being attacked.
Well, it didn't work out for him well in the end.
No, but he's still around doing that.
I knew nothing about this guy. I knew nothing about Heartland, and that's when I said, "Oh, if this guy's going to pull this tactic, I got to dig into him." And that's when I decided to, research it and write the article.
Yeah.
And expose them.
Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Well, the bottom line is, question everything. Even if you've got a group, question me, question Alex, question Greg, question anybody in the Liberty Movement. If somebody is pushing something and there's anything remotely that seems off, do your homework, do your digging, because there are a lot of people that are hoping to use you as a useful idiot to implement their goals, and their goals are sometimes not what they're telling you they are.
Well,
and this is one of those cases. I'm fairly convinced of it.
Yeah, well, and in addition to that, listen to the responses that you get when you offer criticism to something. You know, a lot of times you can look at something and it doesn't look right, even though there may be something innocent that goes along with it. See how it's explained back to you. You know, because a lot of times, look, you're out there doing something, Adrian, and somebody's going to go, well, you know, this kind of sounds like crap. But what about this? If you give back an answer where it's just an attack on that person, then realize that, you know what, more than likely what your concern was actually justified. But if, you know, you get a response back of, well, you know, I can understand what you're saying there. However, this is what's going on, and lay it all out and say, do you understand what I'm saying? And
if someone comes back with, this is why I support it, here are the good points of this issue, that is when you know you're getting a good answer. Or sometimes you're getting a sell job, but at least it's on the right track. When somebody responds by attacking the person that criticized, and if you're asking the question, normally what they'll do is they'll attack a third party that has also criticized them on that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They don't want to attack you necessarily. They're trying to win you over, but they attack another third party that has made the same criticism.
Yeah.
And if you see that tactic, you pretty much know that they've got something to hide.
I think it's important to note as well that they are using Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals as a playbook for exactly what they're doing. Rule number 5, straight from the handbook. Rule number 5, ridicule is a man's most potent weapon. It's hard to counterattack ridicule, and it infuriates the opposition, which then reacts to your advantage.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and AFP does that, Heartland does that, and I'm starting to see that a little bit with the Convention Estates project.
Yeah, I saw that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I saw them, it was done. When I watched that, it was done on purpose. It was done to piss off the people that knew about the issue that would be in opposition to it,
and it was unprovoked.
And it was unprovoked, and it ended up causing a reaction. Now we kind of stayed clear of it, but the JBS guy was. I mean, you know, that dude was pissed. He was ready to kick that guy's ass.
And I got to say, the John Birch Society is one of the more consistent groups in the liberty movement. They
were in it before it was called anything. You got to remember, the John Birch Society is from like the 50s.
Right. Yeah. And when I see one of their assessments, it's usually dead on.
They're very clinical about it. I mean, again, there's not everything I agree with the John Birch Society on, but it's enough to where I'm actually a paid member of the. I mean, I paid for a membership to.
Are you or have you ever been a card-carrying member of the John Birch Society?
I have been.
Okay.
And I still am. I like the organization. I don't agree with them on everything. I think some of the religious connotations I'm not necessarily in favor of, but the people that were calling it out from the beginning and that were dead right on it and that were excoriated for it, you know what? You ought to support groups like that. And that's why I support groups like the John Birch Society. And some of those old Birchers, man, boy, they've been doing this for a long, long time. And, I really do. I have a lot of respect for almost everybody I've ever met that's been a member. I've had a lot of respect for.
Hey. Well, according to the SPLC, you're a card-carrying terrorist then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Southern Poverty Law Center. I remember when they sent me something. Like, when I was running for office, they sent me something, and my response back was curse-laden.
I don't doubt that.
I was running for office at the time, too. Like, normally I could keep my kind of wits about me a little bit on it. But I went back and I called them all the names they were calling me. Like, no, you guys are the racists.
See, you're using Saul Alinsky's tactics there.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you got.
Now I don't trust you.
Damn it.
There's a reason people use them, because they work.
Right.
Well, we only got a minute left, so.
Hey, well then, real quick, anyone got any plans for this weekend?
I think I might go see Mad Max with Brandon.
Nah, you got something going on?
No, not really. I'm taking a long weekend. I am going to take Monday off, which is rare for me, and I'm going to try to finish my damn book this weekend.
Oh yeah, you got a lot going on with the book.
Are you writing one or reading one?
No. Writing. Yeah, I've got about 65,000 words in. I'm pretty close to finishing up. So
that's a lot of words.
Yeah.
I can't believe he wrote the that many times.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Well, actually, there's the first 30 pages is the.
I stutter a lot when I write. I don't know why.
All right, website 1787network.com, 1787network.com. Glad to have Adrian today. It was always fun to have Adrian. A little impromptu thing, but that'll work.
Good to hang
well.
out again.
Glad that you were here, sir. Wish you the best. All right, we'll see you guys next week.